Hello, happy Tuesday, and it is time for another top five. How are you doing tonight, Jason?
Super busy. What was it? 4 days ago, I looked at a calendar and realized it was October, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, where does time go?"
I know, right? Dude and I just had our anniversary achievement chases. We've been doing it for a year already. It seems like we just started.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, well, glad to see you here tonight, and we're able to find some time for another episode of Top Five, where we'll be ranking our favorite spooky games. And we got our awesome panelists tonight joining us. We got Fractured Filter. Good evening, good sir. Are you
Hi,
there?
Hulk. Sorry, I was making sure like I had the different chats up and everything. Sorry, I just want to make sure I had had everything for myself. Hello, hello, hello. How's it going, everybody?
Hey, glad you could join us for another top five. Always love having you
Oh
on.
yeah, thanks for having me. It's always a blast. We get into it. We go into the deep dives. It's fun.
And we also have my good buddy Carl of RNG as Sarah Michelle Gellar tonight. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing good. Apparently we're also playing Samus right now on Twitch for our top spooky games over here, according to Neo's thing.
Yeah, I always have to wait till it goes live and then I can fix it. So
That's bizarre.
yeah,
How bizarre.
it's weird. It's I don't for anyone watching. The countdown started probably at like 5 seconds left because when I hit go live, it asked me to put in the name of the stream, and then I had to wait like 20 seconds for it to actually go live. It's never done that before. So
Well, and it was really weird because I saw Jason's channel go up first, and yours was still like 13 minutes counting down, which is really bizarre, even though I'd like refreshed it like 5 or 6 times, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And I was about to say, Theo, you're not live.
Yep.
And then it finally kicked over. I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Modern technology, it always works, right?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah. The best.
yeah, and those other platforms always take the information from the last stream, which would have been my Metrovania Monday last night, and then I have to go wait till we're live, and then I can update it. So, but hello, Carl. Thank you for joining us for another top five. Glad you could join us.
No problem at all.
So, all right, and we got Daxnar in the chat saying hello, Neo and Jason. It's good to see you,
Hello.
Daxnar. Hope you are having a good night. And Brian is here as well. Sup, everybody? Good evening, Nerdporial. And by the way, Adam is gay.
I'm always happy.
So good to see you, Nerdporial. Before we get started, I thought we'd go around and give a little background for each of us on where you are on the spooky, scary, Halloween themed stuff. Is it your favorite time of year? What was your introduction to this genre of not specifically games, but just the whole spooky aura? So for me, like, I'm not into spooky, scary stuff, so my list is going to be very, very tame because I don't do scary typically for movies or games, especially not like the demonic stuff. But I'm more so like the sci-fi horror. I'm more okay with. But yeah, it's just genre that I'm not really into. But I think I've got a decent list. So just curious from you guys, kind of what your background is on the whole spooky thing.
Fractured, you can start.
Oh, okay. I'll just say, I mean, I enjoy this time of year just for even the kind of aesthetics to everything, the spookiness to it. I want the one thing I've been definitely wanting to do is like try and do up my yard to look like and have like cutouts from Zombies Ate My Neighbors. If you ever played that game on the Super Nintendo, one of my favorite little games from that era. And it's just very all themed with different movie monsters and stuff like that. But when it comes to the games and stuff like that, like, I mean, I guess probably like an introduction would have been like even early, like Doom was probably the first game that I played where it did have some of the horror elements, considering it was also meant to be originally an Aliens game until they had to repurpose it. But that was probably like a start. I'm not always too big on it. Like I find like jump scares and stuff like that really obnoxious, but I do enjoy good atmosphere, heavy setting, music that plays well to the whole thing. So there are some things like that, and then like the suspense and tension of whether or not you're gonna get messed up by whatever ghoul monster, whatever the heck it is. And I definitely have one game on particular where things were clenched and I didn't want to move. Actually, there's two games like that where I was hiding in a corner and I don't want to go anywhere. But it was still fun games regardless. So still things that I've enjoyed. But like it is not my main thing, but definitely like there are some that I've gravitated to and enjoyed the hell out of.
All right. And what about you, Carl? Is this your favorite time of year? Because I know, like, after September 30th, people are like, yes, it's my favorite time of year. Is that you?
Yeah, I'm one of those people.
You love your pumpkin spice?
No, I'm not that type of white woman, but I would say that my sister, I think I've said before, is 10 years older than me. So she used to always watch all the horror movies. So when she was like 15, I was 5, and she was just traumatizing me with all the horror ones. I grew up watching like American Werewolf in London, Creepshow.
Oh, jeez.
She took me to see the Resident Evil movie when it was in theaters, when it came out. You know, just stuff like that. I've just kind of grown used to just like liking this time of season. I always been a fan of mythology and ghost tales and stuff like that. You know, growing up around this time of year, you know, Halloween Town when you were a kid was on Disney Channel, so I'd always watch Halloween Town. Or they had the Ichabod Crane story, the Tale of Sleepy Hollow, which was really fun, animated one that I always loved watching. Or even, I believe it's Fantasia, when the demon comes out of the mountain and summoning all the spirits and stuff like that. You know, I always loved the aesthetic. I always loved the weirdness of like a Tim Burton, I guess you could say. I always joke about it. It's like, if I had a chance, I'd live in a Tim Burton world. You know, Nightmare Before Christmas. You know, Nightmare Before Christmas, my wife and I had a Nightmare Before Christmas themed wedding and everything too. So,
okay.
So like, yeah, you know, I love the oddities and I love the weirdness of, you know, everything that comes around this time of year. Obviously, being a history major, folklore and, you know, fairy tales and everything like that come around this time because, you know, the solstice, obviously, Day de los Muertos is also coming up too after Halloween, you know, Day of the Dead. And basically just like everything else, you know, from the super ultra bloody violent to just like the weird, bizarre thrillers to just even the lighthearted, you know, Monster Squad kind of feels. I was
gonna say, when it comes to like the horror movies, it's generally like the horror comedies that I will generally gravitate to, just because like I like that mixture of those two sort of elements. So
yeah, me too. I haven't started my list for spooky movies, which will be in 2 weeks from today. So yeah.
So yeah, that basically it's just, yeah, I love this time of year.
All right. Jason, what about you? Are you a big fan?
So I'm not the biggest fan of fall, just because it's just depression before winter is what I like to call it.
Damn.
I mean, true. I mean, Christmas is the nice, you know, pretty much the best thing about winter, but you know, getting cold and the sun being now gone. It's 8 o'clock and the sun's now gone. Just kind of always, that sucks. But other than that,
I hate when it's dark by like 5 o'clock.
It's the worst. It is absolutely the worst. You're like, oh, cool, I got out of. Okay, I have no sun anymore. Awesome. But other than that, horror movies and everything like that, I pretty much was trained to watch them as a kid. Not saying that I absolutely loved watching them, because there's times where I'm at a drive-in and I'm like, oh, I'm tired, I'm gonna go sleep instead of watch this one, because you know I'm just a child and I'm watching these horror movies and everything like that. But my first one was Night of the Living Dead, which I think I said it on a podcast or whatever. But Night of the Living Dead and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein were like my first two, and then after that it was pretty much, you know, just like, you know, Werewolf in London, all of those crazy, you know, you name it, you know, Friday the 13th, Halloween, you know, all those, they were just dumped on my lap. You're like, okay, you graduated that quick, now watch all of these. So I'm like,
you say train though. So are we talking like Clockwork Orange style? They peeled your eyes open and we're like making you watch this. Like, you will be accustomed to this one way or another.
I'm not gonna say no, but I'm not gonna say yes. No, just because my family was like, they liked horror movies a lot of the time, so it was just there. So it's like, oh, we're writing movies. we're going to go see them. You're going to watch them, and if you don't want to watch it,
You
you know,
can
Too
yeah,
bad.
pass out, go
yeah,
to
exactly,
sleep,
yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
if you're at a
exactly, yeah,
drive-in,
yeah,
it's
yeah. So
easy.
it's pretty much one of those things. Is like you're trained to watch them, like just watch them, and then the biggest thing every time you watch them is like it's not real. It's just a movie. Like that was the biggest thing that's always says it's not real. But I don't care. I have an imagination. When the lights turn off, that's all I can see is
Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah. So I mean, not in a good way, to bad way. But I mean, I enjoy them to this day. I go out of my way every once in a while if I see something that's interesting to watch, I'll do that. I'm more of the fan of the suspense. I'm not the biggest fan of like the jump scares because I mean anybody can say boo really really loud and you
Yeah,
can jump.
I
I mean,
agree.
in football, it's they try to get you off sides by screaming loud. I mean, that's just a jump scare. I mean, jump scares have their places, especially because I mean, if you're really tense and just like something's there and it makes you jump, that's it's fun because
It can be done well, yeah.
Yeah,
It can be
yeah.
done well.
just because it's trying to you get the tension cut there, but then the thing that you were scared of comes right afterwards, and it's the same thing. So I mean, jump scares have their place, but it just depends on where the tension's placed and everything.
All right. We also have jumped on me. Kay is here saying respect for Buffy. What's up, Kay? Good to see you this evening.
Thank you, Cabe. My wife
And-
appreciates the support.
And Nerdpoil saying that he fell in love with the early Resident Evils. I'll have to talk to him about why 1, 2, and 4, not 3. But saying that
Yeah,
Buddy told him that Zelda is Resident Evil, or Resident Evil is Zelda with jump scares and limited resources.
Huh.
He didn't like 3 because it was a woman.
Oh, okay. Well, wait. 2 had Claire, 1 had Jill.
Yeah, but 50% is played as a man.
Fair enough. That's true. Resident Evil 3 was pure Jill. But we did
I
not
thought-
get that jiggle sandwich. If we got the jiggle sandwich, we would have been keen.
Jiggle sandwich or Jill sandwich?
I always heard it as jiggle sandwich when in the Resident Evil 1, the original. It always sounded like jiggle sandwich.
You, the master of unlocking.
I have not heard of Jiggle sandwich before, but I've heard Jill sandwich plenty of
Yeah.
times, although I've never actually played the game.
Is it like one of those things where you listen to a song and you hear something wrong of it? I
And
think
you
like
stick with it forever.
Yeah.
like with Jimi Hendrix, like Purple Rain, people hear it, excuse me while I kiss this guy instead of excuse me.
Kiss the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Now I won't be able to unhear that.
Oh, I got a better one for Christmas time for you. I'll tell you off air.
All right. Well, I think we will go ahead and get on into our ranking for tonight. So let's see here. Jason, is it customary for you to go first?
It usually is. So my 4 was pretty easy. I was telling them, before we started, number 5 was the hardest one for me, and just at the last moment, I kind of changed it. So my number 5, it's a game. I think it came out maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and the reason why it made my list is because it's one of the games. Actually, it's the only game on my list that you actually can play with people, like multiplayers. And if it's you're playing with your friends and it's still that scary, and you can still have to play it. And again, you have to play it the correct way. Like anybody can go in there, do the things, but if you like literally try to do each task and do everything, and you don't want to go back in, or you do not want to go back in for a friend to help them out, to me that's terrifying. So my number 5 is Phantasmophobia.
Yeah, I thought that's what you were going to say.
Yeah. It's a simple game, but like if you literally be like, okay, I'm going in there, I'm going to do this, I'm going to figure out which one it is, I'm going to do all these kind of things, and you're playing with your friends, and the next you don't hear your friend or something like is happening. That's, to me, that's terrifying. And then again, there are the tension and everything like that. There are jump scares, but again, the tension of like what's haunting me, what's coming after me, is there something there? Now I still need to, take a picture of this, or I need to put a light here or anything like this, or hey, all come with me kind of thing. And next, the one friend, gets lost, or I don't know where I'm at kind of thing. And next, you're by yourself, and next he's the ghost or the specter or whatever thing's coming after you. To me, that's always been the most terrifying thing. And then you always get the fun thing after the mission's over. You're yelling at your friends like, why'd you leave me alone? You didn't have to leave me alone. Kind of thing like that. So that's why I put that as my number 5. Just because that to me is there's a lot of tension, and it's a lot of fun with friends.
So I haven't played that game. I've barely ever even seen anything of it, but I know it's a popular one. What exactly is the basis of the game? Like, what is the goal?
So yeah,
Is
you
it
play with 3 other friends, and you're just ghost hunters, ghost chasers, and they give you like a school, they give you a prison, they just give you different maps, and your goal is to buy certain equipment, go into the haunted area, and your goal is to pretty much mess with the ghost or whatever it is, because it could be one of I think 8 different types of ghosts, kind of thing, and yeah, your goal is to figure out what it is, try to take pictures of it, just pretty much mess with it. And then if you do everything that you're supposed to, you get extra funds to get more expensive equipment, so you can do your job quicker, faster, and stuff like that without your character dying from being
okay?
hunted by a ghost.
Okay, and it's there's no like player on the other side, right? It's not like one of those asynchronous
No,
multiplayer
no.
games like Dead
It's
by
a
Daylight.
yeah, no, it's a CPU hunting you down pretty much
Okay,
in a way.
okay, yeah. So it's co-op versus the AI.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I've seen some funny clips of it, but I've never actually like really seen
Mhm.
how the game is played. I just know I've heard the name of that game a lot. So,
Yeah, like I mean, when it first came out, it was a lot of fun. I mean, it is still fun just to jump in and just get terrified, but it is one of those that like you can play by yourself, but it's more fun when you and 3 other friends are acting like children because this visible thing's coming after you and you don't want to go inside, or your friend's in trouble and you're like, I'm not going in there for you. You're screwed. You went on your own, and he's
How you know
screaming
your
on
true
the
friends?
exactly,
Find out who
yeah.
your true friends are.
Yep. He's screaming on the radio inside the game and trying to figure out. And the next, he's screaming for help on the radio inside the game. And next, there's no sound anymore. Like, oh, he's dead.
so it cuts their mic when they die.
Yeah. I mean, you can cheat and play on Discord, but that's
Yeah.
the way to do it. Yeah. You have to buy the radios, and you have to make sure that you're, inside of the certain, distance, so you can, communicate and all that kind of stuff.
This would be fun to just pretend you're like Zach Baggins on Ghost Adventures, just playing this.
Yeah.
It'd just be fun like that.
Oh yeah, it's like it's a blast.
All right. Let's go in counterclockwise. So, Filter, what about you? What's your number 5?
I was trying to think of which way I wanted to go about this. You know what? I think I'll kind of slightly ease into this a bit. I'm going to go with a game that is, in my opinion, a bit of a knockoff of my number 1 on here, but it's still good all the same. It sets up the horror. It sets up the suspense. Does kind of like a lot of horror games, kind of, at least action games especially, like lose that flair once you start getting more and more leveled up, but there's still some dangerous elements to it that I really like. And especially the setting where you are basically in a claustrophobic setting underwater, and there's not a whole shitload you can do. And that is BioShock, the first one. Like I said, it really sets it up pretty nicely. They do a lot of good work with the shadows and with the atmosphere. And like I said, just knowing that you're kind of trapped underwater just adds that extra level of like, holy crap, what the hell would I do if any one of these tubes burst on me at any given time? But then, like I would say, like I said, like even though like you get pretty powered up in the game, those big daddies are still something you don't want to mess with. Just rushing into that sort of a fight. Like you can get good and knowing how to kill them and everything like that, but there's still just this, they are just this massive threat, and just the noises that they make as they're like just trudging down the halls.
Yeah, you hear their
that-
heavy footsteps from far
Yeah,
away.
the
You're
heavy
like, "Oh, crap."
footsteps, that like almost wail sound that emanates from them as they're making these noises. And then you piss them off, and then it just sounds like a pig screeching at you. And they just, big ton of diver suit just comes charging at you with a drill. You're like, oh my god, no. But yeah, like I would just say that's kind of like a little nice ease into things a little bit for me. It definitely was a game like I enjoy playing the hell out of. It still kind of gets me a little bit, even though I know it pretty darn well at this point. But there's still like moments where like, oh crap, that got me. Just those little moments when you're just kind of walking that corner and you hear the splicers and everything. And I just loved like catching their conversations and then anytime they're hunting you down and stuff like that. So definitely one of the games that I do enjoy, and it's kind of that, I guess, an action horror sort of setup thing.
Yeah.
Never quite got me so terrified I'm hiding in a corner, not wanting to move, but like it definitely has that great factor. Like I said, just the setting is so cool too. The whole underwater city going on as you're trying to, go through all the elements and stuff like that. So hadn't quite been done that well that I can think of between then and before. So it was a real treat to play that sort of a game.
Yeah, the best thing about Bioshock 2 is like you were saying about the city. It's like it's a city underwater.
Yeah,
but
big
you still
giant
feel,
city.
but you still feel so claustrophobic because
Mhm.
you're underwater.
Yeah.
So it has like a play
that-
on. You're like, oh, I have this whole city to deal with, but why do I feel so like I have nowhere to go?
Yeah, you even though like you go wander into like some of the big areas, especially like when you've got these groves and stuff like that, like the garden area, but then like the bigger parts of the city that seem pretty expanded out, and you just kind of like, oh cool, this is neat. And then you just kind of look up a little bit further and you're like, that's a bunch of fucking water. Sorry, pardon me. But that is just a bunch of water above my head that could come crashing down on me at any moment should that thing burst, if that were in the game mechanics. Like there's just so much going on with it, and they really played with you in the beginning of the game, especially like when it's got like the plane that you were in comes crashing down through and bursts through a tube. Now sure, you can kind of just hang out and be like, hey, what's going on? But it gave you that, like, just those events happening automatically conditioned you to go, I have to keep moving. I have to keep moving. I have to keep moving. And they did it pretty darn well in my book. So yeah, that's where I'm starting from my number 5.
All right. Good pick. Yeah. Definitely has the spooky ambiance for sure.
So, yeah, you got like the mutated splicers running around with their like sickles, and then just the general the different bosses that you end up fighting, their own cadre of freaks, and just all these people twisted by the plasmids and stuff like that. Like it's just, it's very much when I get to my number 1, there's so much that as I think about it now too, I'm like, oh, that's where they got a lot of this. So, but I mean, it's still an enjoyable game in my book. It's still worth the checkout if you haven't.
Yeah, I just played through it again not that long ago, probably about 2 years ago, because that's actually I think my longest completion on Xbox, because I gameflied it like a couple months after it came out, and then after I sent it back, they added one more achievement for beating it on the higher difficulty
of course
without
they did.
dying, and so it sat on my gamer card for like 13 or 14, 15 years, and then so I finally got a copy of it and finished it off and got that last achievement.
Damn. That's something else. Like I couldn't do that. Even as much as I've played that game and gotten to know it, I'm like, dang, man.
Oh wow, that was already almost 4 years ago. Because yeah, I started it November 5th, 2007, and I completed it December 6th, 2020. So 13 years. But yeah,
nice.
Good game. The while you're talking about that, it reminded me of something that we should have brought up on top 5 commercials on our last episode of Top 5. I don't remember if it was a commercial or a tech demo or something, but I remember it was a pre-rendered thing from BioShock, and it was maybe it was like the E3 announcement, but he was like fighting the Big Daddy. I remember the Big Daddy came at him with his drill, and he blocked it with his hand. And you could see it drilling through the hand, and then he like pumped himself with like a plasmid.
I think I remember. I think I remember
the plasmid on the Big Daddy. It's like that was a pretty great.
That was an E3.
I was gonna say my guess would be it was an E3 announcement.
Well, and another funny little tidbit too. We were told this when I was working at EA for that short stint that I did, and I think they were getting ready for maybe Dead Space. I'm not sure, but they were one of the managers or something was talking to all of us QA guys. And they're like, yeah. Dead Space is gonna be was gonna be their kind of spiritual successor to System Shock until BioShock was announced and they launched it and they're like, oh crap, all right, reform a little bit. And so they kind of changed things. I believe they changed some things up to make it a little more unique, which might have been, it's not my favorite game, but like I can understand why some people do gravitate to it, because I see the System Shock elements in that game. But yeah, I just thought that was that tidbit always stuck with me when they were telling us. I was like, holy crud, that's kind of cool. Because when we had nothing but a bunch of downtime, I loaded up the demo that was available at the time for System or for BioShock. I was really digging it even then. I was like, man, I can't wait for the full game. And then it dropped. I was playing the hell out of it.
All right, before we move on to Carl, we got a couple other friendly faces in chat. Snapple Rai is here saying hello, everyone. Good to see you, Snapple. Hope you're doing well tonight. He said he's only got a few minutes, but he's going to hang out for a bit. So glad you can hang out for a little bit. So, just to catch you up, Jason's number 5 was Phasmophobia, and Fractured was BioShock. And Insidious Bliss is here saying, yo, what's up, Bliss? Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're having a good night. So, all right, Carl, what is your number 5?
My number 5 is a licensed game. And it is from the 360, and that is the Ghostbusters game.
That was that. Okay, you know, like I was saying, I was going through my Steam list and I saw something that like sparked my brain. That was the game that I thought of. I was like, oh, dang it, Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
that
was a good one. It was that I would say is like the unofficial like third movie.
That's what I've heard is the unofficial third Ghostbusters movie.
Yeah, I would say it's for me, it is the third Ghostbusters movie. Pretty much every character is in the game that you want. And you're just living your Ghostbusters adventure. Obviously, Ghostbusters, I like 1 and 2. I even like the edgy 90s Ghostbusters cartoon that I watched growing up as well. I thought that was really good.
The Extreme Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
I never watched the Extreme Ghostbusters because the art style kind of turned me off from it. I thought it looked a little too odd in comparison to like the original, the what they called it, the real Ghostbusters cartoon that I had watched the ever loving piss out of. So, but the Extreme Ghostbusters,
2 Ghostbuster cartoons.
Yes, there was 2.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and even the real Ghostbusters eventually became the real Ghostbusters with Slimer, because they started to gimmick him out a little bit more. And then yeah, like after that series ran, then they brought out the Extreme Ghostbusters, which was a kind of like that was like a passing of the torch sort of thing where they brought in a new group of Ghostbusters to take over.
Yeah, it was like a very 90s cartoon, a lot of
very
edge.
90s, yes.
Yeah, they had the goth girl, the wheelchair guy, like a Shaggy ripoff, and they had Egon though. They kept Egon around.
Yeah, Egon was kind of like that legacy character that was helping, I think, trying to transition them to being Ghostbusters and everything. I think I hadn't watched it. I can only guess what was going on. Wasn't Janine in it still?
Yes. Too? Yeah, she was. There's like a weird storyline too with Janine and Egon for one episode I can remember with like a moth demon and stuff. It's fucking pretty weird. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I just remember from the real Ghostbusters, the boogeyman ghost just freaked the hell out of me as a kid. That thing was just monstrous looking and just scary as heck.
I'm trying to, because I know I watched a little bit of a Ghostbusters cartoon back in the 90s. I don't remember which one it was, but I'm looking it up right now. And the real Ghostbusters ran for like 7 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And the Extreme Ghostbusters only ran for 1.
Yeah. It was good.
I'll have to watch one of these.
Alfonso Ribeiro was in it. That's the Carlton.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe so. Something I'm like.
Yeah, like so. Growing up over here in the Chicagoland area, Jason will know this. WCIU channel 2060U. Yeah, see, so they before it was channel 26, it was just channel 6 for a while, and they would run Captain Simian and the Space Monkeys, Extreme Ghostbusters, and the Men in Black cartoon as well.
I watched a bunch of that.
Same here.
Yeah.
And then super late on Saturday nights and Sunday mornings. We had Svengoolie.
Yep, Svengoolie as well. Can't forget his infamous Killdozer song. Come and get the Killdozer. It's a local thing. You wouldn't understand.
I've never heard that one.
Sounds great.
Erwin.
I think I remember watching the Space Monkeys one. Huh.
But
Sorry.
anyway, by the by, so Ghostbusters, yeah, when I booted it up on the 360, obviously it starts off, I think 1992 is when it takes place in. And then you have that whole like opening scene where like just like everything goes crazy. And then the Ghostbusters music kicks in, obviously, and then it's just, a really well done video game. The proton pack, the wrangling of the ghosts, like it starts off like a Ghostbusters thing. It's you get like a little bit into it because you're chasing down Slimer, you're running into all these weird ghosts that they captured before. You go to the infamous hotel, the first Ghostbusters, and then it just quickly transforms into like this over the top crazy like adventure that's just out of nowhere where you're fighting off like Igor Shander and his like whole like crazy army of ghosts and stuff like that. Honestly, if you haven't played this game yet, it's usually on sale a lot, and I would say that you have to just pick it up and play it. If you are a Ghostbusters fan and you haven't played this one, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Worth the playthrough for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. Oh, it is backwards compatible. So at least on Xbox One. So that means it's still available on the store after the 360 store shut down, and it is full price at $15. But it does have 4 partly discontinued unattainable achievements if you care about that.
Yeah, I think that's the online multiplayer side, unfortunately.
They also have a remaster too.
Yeah, there's the remaster out as well, and I think they removed those achievements.
Oh, really?
Because I think they removed the online, which the online side wasn't terribly bad, but like, yeah, they locked certain achievements behind that side of the game.
Oh yeah, Ghostbusters the video game remastered, and it's a much shorter completion as well. I'm not huge on Ghostbusters, but can you play the whole? Oh no, never mind. I was gonna say, can you play the whole thing in co-op? Because that seems like it'd be a great co-op game.
No, it unfortunately
it's all single player.
It is.
At least on the remaster.
No, I think that was the same for the original. Yeah, like I said, the online function was this mostly just that it was entirely separate. You kind of just did matches, kind of like that Ghostbusters game now.
That's what I was going to mention. That there was a Ghostbusters game from a year or two ago that like it got really popular. It was like a co-op game.
It's one of those sort of game. It was kind of like that, and it was like more of like competing to how many ghosts you could capture and stuff like that. It wasn't. It would have been great if it was co-op, especially with this whole idea of like having a fresh character that you're being brought into the storyline with. I think they should have made it customizable, but regardless, like I think like that could have been fun having your friends go along in the story too. That could have been cool.
Because the setting of the game, you are like the new guy on the Ghostbusters squad, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but that's not someone that you can create. That's predetermined by the developers. They created a character for that.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a very bland-looking white dude.
Okay.
He's just generic white guy number 1. They don't even give you like a real name.
No, and they all skirt around it too. Like it's kind of funny.
They even make a line. Bill Murray's character is like, no names, Ray. No names.
Yeah, you don't want to get too attached to this one.
Yeah, exactly.
They're basically like wanting to foreshadow your death at any minute, and it's pretty fun.
You're just a jobber. That's all you're there for.
Exactly.
Your new recruit number 1. That's all you are.
The Ghostbusters equivalent of the red shirt.
Exactly.
So did this game get all or most of the original voice cast?
I believe they're all in there. Yeah.
Nice.
Dan Aykroyd, I know, is there. Bill Murray's in there, and late great Egon's character's name.
Harold Ramis.
Harold Ramis. Yeah, I couldn't remember off the top of my head.
Is Ernie Hudson in it?
He's in it.
Sweet.
Cool. They got the actor Amy Potts, I believe, for Janine. And of course they have Bill Murray's brothers in there around too doing voices. I think his older brother does the voice of the mayor,
Yes.
stuff like that. So, you know, they
Nice.
got the cadre going, the usual faces in a sense.
Yeah, because you never know with licensed games. Like, can they afford the original, cast
like-
or not?
Yeah, that was something funny about this one. They went all in on it too. Like, I think somebody knew, like, this is our chance. We won't get to do a movie, but we can do a video game,
I think
and
that's
let's take advantage of it while we can.
yeah. No, I 100%. It was before making everything again was such a whatever it was. It's like they didn't think they were going to be able to make another movie, especially at their age. So they were just like,
Yeah.
let's just make a game. People are playing games. We can tell a story that we want to tell. Get everybody all into it. Let's just do it. And that's why, again, it's technically the third movie, but not being the third movie.
Yeah, because they do. I mean, like it's just them supplying their voices, and for the most part, they sound the same.
I
They ever
think that's
did.
why they got Bill Murray to be involved with it. He's like, I don't have to act. I'm in.
Yeah, I just have to supply my voice. Groovy, I'm there.
Because everything says like Bill Murray was the only one holding everything back. Because Dan Aykroyd, he doesn't care. He'll talk to you about like anything,
Yeah,
And I think Harold Ramis, like not too long after that game came out, he passed away. So maybe he just was probably just trying to get it out,
yeah, and I heard there was some beef between Harold Ramis and Bill Murray for a while. And that's what also halted up the production of the third movie. There's apparently a lot of drama surrounding them trying to get a third movie out for the Ghostbusters. It's like, guys, chill your shit. Come on, can you just can't we all just get along? No, apparently we can't. It worked much easier for Bill Murray to be in a separate booth, probably doing his voice lines, and he could easily just check out at any time.
Yeah.
Because he's notorious for like, even on movie sets and stuff, for getting grumpy over time. And Harold Ramis knew this, and he filmed Groundhog Day in a particular order because he knew how he could count on Bill's anger getting towards the end of production.
So you kind of briefly mentioned this, but I do want to point it out that, I'm looking at just some stuff about the game, and it was actually written by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, the video game.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's why it's like, oh, this is the chance to get a third something for Ghostbusters out. And they wrote it and got it out there.
I mean, listen, it takes place in 92. You could tell that this was probably the original script for the third movie.
No, they adapted the original
true.
script for the third movie into the video game. That would be
it had to be, because obviously the Ghostbusters take place in mid 80s, late 80s. So the third one obviously would probably be in the 90s if they ever did it. And, like I said, the setting for it and everything else just makes perfect sense. It wasn't like they made it during like the early mid 2000s. They made it specifically in 92.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ghostbusters 2 was 1989, so you're getting to the 90s era anyway. So yeah, that just a couple of years later or whatever, and then boom, you got your new movie.
So they probably wrote it back then and it just sat on the shelf until it finally came out as the video game in 2009. Is that what
That's
you're saying?
basically been the word.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It feels like it. Like I said, it just adds up too much,
Yeah.
Uh,
And I liked how they did for the proton pack. I did like how they kind of brought in like even the slime goo and stuff like that for helping capture certain ghosts. Like they made the upgrades for the proton pack pretty interesting, pretty neat for some of it.
Well, they even brought back the EPA agent too. He actually is in the game as well.
Yes. This man has no dick.
Well, that's what I heard.
Was that from Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
I've seen that clip so many times I didn't realize from Ghostbusters, because I haven't seen Ghostbusters in like
it's from
goodness.
It's from the first movie, yeah.
I haven't seen either of the Ghostbusters in like 20 years. It's been a really long time.
You're hurting me, Neo. You're hurting me.
Maybe I'll make that a thing. I'll watch both Ghostbusters before the end of the month. But that means I'll have to put Stargate on hold for a little bit.
The only man
It's
missing
tough.
though, yeah, it is. The only man missing though is Rick Moranis. Like they didn't, like he still is just out of the business entirely.
Yeah,
which was kind of a bummer because like it would have been great to
everyone
have him
wants
as a
to see him
character.
back, but yeah,
Yeah,
he's being a great dad after his wife
yeah,
passed away, and he just retired to
can't
be a dad. It's like good for him.
can't argue with that. Can't argue with that.
So, all right,
They're-
Kay's got to bounce. So, see you later, Kay. Have a good evening.
Have a good one, Kay.
Later, Kay.
But yeah, the Ghostbusters, the video game remastered, at least on Xbox, has been on sale for as low as $7.50 on the Xbox store. So,
Oh, there you go.
I could just send you my copy if you want.
He's
okay.
debating it. He's debating it.
I might take you up on that. We'll see. But yeah, if it's as good, maybe I'll do that. Watch like I said, I'm not starting anything new for a while, but maybe I'll when I do finally get around to playing, I'll watch the movies again, and then I'll go into the third game.
Yeah, do the refresher course, get into it. It like for especially like for I remember as a kid, like when the real Ghostbusters cartoon was going on, they advertised I don't know if everybody remembers the toys that they had, like especially the proton pack for the kids that you could get. I remember wanting one of those so bad. And I loved it too, because in that game, the kind of weird what is that theme called for the horror games that have like the player killer character and then all the other players are trying to survive it?
I would call it asymmetrical multiplayer.
Asymmetrical, yeah. They give you the ability to customize your proton pack to look like the one from the cartoons. Both Extreme Ghostbusters and the real Ghostbusters, so you could use either version.
Nice.
just for skins. But I thought that was really cool.
See you later, Samurai. Thanks for hanging out for a little bit. You have a
Later.
good night.
Bye.
So, all right, cool. Well, yeah, I know that I've heard nothing but good things about that game. Of just Ghostbusters. Not that I have anything against Ghostbusters, just like I've never really been into Ghostbusters that much. But
Yeah.
maybe I'll give it a shot at some point.
Ghostbusters is one of the best horror comedies out there.
Agree.
Definitely a classic, that's for sure. So, and Vanquish is here. Hopefully, he's not spoiling anybody's list, but he's saying best horror game I never played. Soma. I have it. I've not played it yet, but I've heard it's great.
No, I've not played it.
Yeah, I haven't either.
All right. Well, I guess Jason, don't answer so we can be in suspense if it's going to be on your list or not.
No, my next four are pretty easy. Or like,
Yeah.
if somebody were to like type in 4 games in chat, they might get my list.
Well, before we move on to number 4s, I'll wrap up our number 5s. And for me, my number 5 is this one is my number 5 because it is the one that I've played the least, and it's been the longest since I played it, but I did really like this game. And this was the one that I referenced before we went live. This was also my answer to one of our questions on last week's episode of Party Chat. And for me, my number 5 is Alien versus Predator 2. From 1996, I think it was. It was around that time. It was a PC game. It might have been on PlayStation as well. But I don't even remember how I ended up with this game. I never bought it. I don't think I knew anybody with it. Maybe someone had it and they left it. They forgot it or something. I have no idea how I ended up playing this game. But because I don't even think I'd ever even... Let's see here. Yeah, I wouldn't have seen the Alien movie yet, because I didn't see the Alien movie until I was in high school. And I'm pretty sure I played this in the 90s. I was in high school until the 2000s. So, but I probably had seen Predator, and I thought Predators were cool. And so I like I said, I have no idea how I ended up with this game, but I ended up playing it, and the Predator campaign on that game is freaking awesome.
It is.
He's so cool. He's all these sorts of cool gadgets. That was my favorite campaign of the 3. Then the Xenomorph campaign was really cool because you climb around on walls and you can. Well, the Predator has different vision modes. That's one of the things that Filter talked about on Party Chat was different vision modes. Before I even got to talking about it, for it being the answer to one of my questions, but Predator has like 3 different vision modes. The Xenomorphs have 2 because they have like regular vision, and then they have. Technically it's not seeing, but in order to incorporate it into the video
kind
game,
of a wall hack.
they can see, but it's actually through their smell, and that's pheromones. So there's like their vision mode of pheromones. and you can, like I said, you can climb on walls and stuff. You can pounce and stuff, and that was fun. But man, playing that campaign as the Marine was
Oh
freaking
my god.
terrifying.
Well, it's especially so because you're up against not only Xenomorphs, but the Predator could be lurking around any goddamn corner, and the aliens already
invisible.
do that too. Yeah, but they like the Predator could just be like chilling, just hanging out, invisible, waiting for you to just come along, and just boink, your head goes tumbling down. I just still love part of the intro of this. The guy, you hear one of your partners on the radio, and there's like he's just kind of griping, but then it's like, oh god, I see something at the end of the hall. Oh god, please let that be a boot. Is it gonna be a boot? Hey, it's a boot. It just kind of breaks the tension for a moment as he just discovers, oh hey, he got creeped out by a random boot on the floor. The moment I always love that one. That was this cracks me up. And then the aliens start killing everybody.
Yeah, so this is really the like I said, the Predator and Alien campaigns or the Xenomorph campaigns aren't really scary, but the Marine campaign is scary, and this is really the only one that's like actually scary on my list because, like I said, scary isn't really my thing. But this game was the thing that was so scary for me is because all you have is this dinky little flashlight. You do eventually get night vision goggles, but they're basically useless because anytime you fire your gun, your muzzle flash will blind you. So there's almost no reason to use your night vision. It's better to stick with the flashlight.
Pretty much.
So the entire game is almost pitch black, and Xenomorphs are black, so you can't really see them anywhere. So you're basically walking down any corridor the entire game, doing 360s the entire time, and you'll still get attacked in the back, and it scares the crap out of you like every time. So I played through the Marine campaign and I beat all 3 campaigns, but I was not a fan of the Marine campaign just because it was freaking scary. But I did love playing the Xenomorph and the Predator campaigns. But yeah, that's probably my number one of like actually scary games. I did play the Alien versus Predator game on 360 as well, and it had a very similar
that one wasn't bad. Yeah.
Where it had 3 campaigns, one for the Predator, one for the Xenomorph, one for the Marines. The Marine one was similarly, it was the scariest one.
It's always the scariest one.
But it wasn't as scary as this one. And I don't think the Predator or Xenomorphs in the 360 game were as good as they were in the PC game.
I'd agree.
It was still a good game, but not as good. So that's why AVP 2. I never played the original AVP from the 90s. I only played the second one, but I love that game.
Think of it kind of similar to the reboot a little bit, just kind of toned down. And then like 2, like they just ramped everything up. They gave the Predator a whole lot more of the gadgets and stuff like that to use. A little more abilities, especially for the leaping around and everything.
You jump super far. You got blade. You got a spear. You got your shoulder cannon.
They definitely amp things up and in a good way. Like it wasn't wasted or
and your giant blades that stick out of your forearm gauntlet.
Yep. You saw those and everything, but like they definitely just kind of like took it up an extra notch, and it was a lot of fun. I'll just say like the advantage the reboot had was kind of like the stealth kills that it had in it. Those were fun to do, but otherwise, like, yeah, it just didn't live up to the same as the originals.
Yeah. And say what you will, I love the Alien versus Predator movie. I don't know why it gets so much.
It's been a long time since I've watched.
I'm not going to say it's good, but I do like that movie.
The reason why it gets so much hate is because people love the video games and the comic books so much, and everybody felt like the movies were such a letdown. Were just so opposite of what they were hoping for out of it. So like some built up expectations were there for the movie that they were hoping for. But what I'll say too, like what I loved about the second game is when you're as the Xenomorph and you're the little hatch, or you just done the face hugging, and you can, if you want to, slowly but surely chew your way out of the guy's chest.
I forgot about that.
Do the chest burst, Uh-huh.
you become a
You're
face
running around
hugger,
as the face hugger.
and then
and
you've got to
then-
find your victim, and then
Yep.
then you implant them, and then you switch to being
And
the
then
chest
you're-
burster inside the person.
And then you had to find and then you do it right from you're starting from the inside, and you get to do the chest bursting, which was, I mean, everybody, that was something everybody wanted to do that was a fan of the movies and stuff like that. You wanted to be able to get that one moment to do the chest bursting, and then you had to. I mean, that was the cool thing, was like you had to then
go through the whole life cycle of the Xenomorph.
yeah, you got to go through the whole life cycle, because then as the chest burster, you had to find the safe spot that you could go to further gestate and grow into the proper xenomorph, and then start having your fun. It was a great
Yes.
setup.
That I forgot about that, but that was really
Yeah. And you just think about it too, it's like, how horrifying is that to know, like, you had this little freaking creature inside your chest, and you could just be the most malicious little turd there is. Just like, you just go crunch, gotta give it a moment, crunch, give it a moment, crunch, and it's like,
savor it.
that's why, yeah, it's like there are like times where like we just want to kind of get really demented and savor it, but then there's like times like, you know what, I'd want nothing more than this little thing to just get it done with. So just burst through and get it, just go right for it. So yeah.
But yeah, that was a great game. And yeah, just one last thing on the movie. I liked AVP. AVP 2 Requiem, that movie sucked. That one was terrible. And I doubt he'll ever see this, but Yellow Flash thinks that was a good movie and the first one was terrible, and I don't know how he could possibly think that, because the second one was utter garbage. The first one was at least okay. So it's like, and I argued with him on chat when I heard him say that on the stream. I'm like, you're an idiot if you think the second one is better than the first one. So I'm calling you out, Yellow Flash.
I don't
on your terrible AVP take.
I'm not gonna doubt that. Like I don't remember exactly hating it. Like the first movie, I don't remember hating it. I just remember being like disappointed by it. Like I said, I had a built-up expectation thanks to the games. I'm like,
I had no expectation because I don't know anything about the franchise.
I was walking into a certain expectation, so that was kind of that's probably a self-own on me. Like that was my mistake. But yeah, that's where I think some of that comes from, some of the hatred for it, because like everybody's like, man, can't wait. Let's see this. We get to see it live on screen and not just a video game or a comic book. But you know, it is what it is. I'll have to give that movie a watch again, because it's been a really long time.
Maybe I'll watch that for October as well.
There you go.
But man, it's so hard to put SG1 on hold.
It's still better than Prometheus. That's all I have to say.
I would agree with that.
I've heard so many mixed things about Prometheus. It's kind of I haven't watched it yet.
That was the last Alien movie I saw, was Prometheus.
I saw, what was the other one after that? Covenant?
Covenant was the next one. I heard that
one was even worse. I remember watching that in theaters with one of my buddies, and I'm like, what is this garbage that I'm watching? That flute scene? We have memed on that flute scene for like years now.
I haven't seen it, but then the one that came out just like a couple months ago, that one seemed pretty mixed, but I don't know.
Yeah, the only reason I heard it was mixed is because they were trying to do more of what they were trying to remake the first one, and they didn't do it wasn't the first one in a way, but they were just kind of copy pasting and everything like that. And
yeah, that's what I heard too.
I don't remember what it was called.
I don't either.
But
it escaped me. But I mean, like I said, if you watch it and you're like, okay, it's just a worse
Romulus.
Version. Yeah, it's just a worse version of the first one. That's pretty much what I've heard.
Ouch. I've heard the director's cut of Prometheus is supposed to be better, but
I doubt it.
I don't know. Like I said, I haven't watched it myself. I've certainly seen enough. I sometimes find like the deep dive videos online of people like basically just trying to add anything and everything of headcanon and lore to make it sound better than it allegedly is. So those have been very creative. But yeah, I heard nothing but negativity surrounding Prometheus. I was like, well, that's a shame. I still have the first movie at least.
Yeah, it's not good at all. I saw that and Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter on the same day. Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter was a massively better movie.
Oh yeah, I saw that movie once and I found that movie entertaining. All right. Well, I think we will move on to our number 4s. Carl, you want to start us off with your number 4?
My number 4 is Left 4 Dead 2.
Oh, there we go.
Yes, I figured just love the first Left 4 Dead. Left 4 Dead 2 kind of took over. There a lot of people were kind of like a little mixed on it, but I thought Left 4 Dead obviously 2 was my favorite one. And now they put all the Left 4 Dead 1 content into, so it basically is the definitive edition of it anyway now.
I didn't know that. Huh. I might have to fire that up again sometime.
Yeah. So I don't know. If you ever want to play it sometime this week, we could do that.
Sweet.
What
I just remember it felt like it came out too quickly. Like it felt like we had the first game, and then the second one was just like right on its heels.
It was, if I recall correctly. Like even Valve made a joke of it.
Let's see here. Left 4 Dead 1 was November 2008, and Left 4 Dead 2 was November 2009. So yeah, basically a year apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. They like Valve absolutely made a joke of it because they're like who said we take too long to make games or something? I think that was.
Own on you, gamer nerds. Take that.
Gabe was like, I'll show you.
No, I didn't play Left 4 Dead 2. I played Left 4 Dead 1, and I thought it was okay, but I played it all solo. I probably would have
had no friends. That's what he's saying right now.
Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 are definitely those games where it's like they're fun, but they require more fun from having a party of friends to play it along with.
Yeah, same with Borderlands.
It's a bit of a Borderlands syndrome there, but it's definitely kind of like a bit of a detriment to it because like I am kind of the rules like I should not have to rely on other people to have fun in a game. And Left 4 Dead kind of has those hallmarks a bit. You can make your fun too if you're just playing it solo, but it's just there is so much more, either hilarity or whatever that you can get up to with hijinks and stuff and just the idea of like further camaraderie of helping your friends if they're downed and stuff like that, and instead of just dealing with NPCs shouting lines over and over again. Instead, you got your friend yelling at you, "Get over here and help me!
Get in the safe house. What are you doing? Don't bother the witch."
Exactly. You tell your friends to just be quiet.
Oh, got the witch.
Go around. Oh, yep. I just bugged that. Bugged the witch. She's coming after you now. Oh, cool.
Got the ominous music of the tank just starts playing, and you're like, damn it.
We were at the end.
Yeah. The thing about Left 4 Dead, why it's so fun is like it has like the comedy element to it, obviously with like your friends, but it also has like really like minimal storytelling and just great world building because obviously every level starts off like as a movie poster, so it's like it gives you that vibe of like this is like a movie series right away. And then obviously in the first one and even the second one you have like this very interesting cast of characters, like Francis, Bill, Lewis. Lewis is like the big meme, obviously, because he's like, always going like, pills here, grabbing pills. I forget. I think Chloe is the girl, and then I forget the two cast. It's Coach, and I forget the other three off the top of my head because I like the cast of one more, but I like the mechanics of two better.
Yeah.
Especially because 2 adds melee combat, which really helps a lot in a pinch. And they also add like more special infected, because they're really cool. So like there's the boomer, which like if you're playing also as the like monsters, you could just vomit on people and then they just blow up and then attract giant hordes. Obviously the tank is just a crazy mutated muscle man that just like throws rocks and tosses you off buildings and stuff. There's the chargers, which is like if you're playing multiplayer, it's like just pure hilarity. Where you just suicide charge someone off a cliff and just take each other out and they can't respond. It like the jockey, the spitter, the smoker. Obviously, the smoker is like a very cool design monster because his whole thing is to grab you with a tongue. But he also is a smoker, so he has like that horrible smoker's cough that gives him away when he's nearby. And when he dies, he becomes a giant puff of smoke. And then obviously there's the hunter, which is just like, as I like to say it, like just, a bad guy in a hoodie just tackling you and ripping your guts out. Yeah. And then you got the witch is just some girl crying, but like she just takes you out with one shot and everything. It's such like great suspense and world building on top of just like outside of like that power trip you get, because like you get the power trip of just mowing down like wave after wave of crazy zombies, but like the whole world building that goes into Left 4 Dead is just so fun. Like it is much better with friends, obviously, because it's built to be a multiplayer game first. But like you could still have like just like an intense like survival horror kind of game to it as well if you want and play solo.
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I told James that because that's one of his favorites, and he's like, "Oh, well, you played the Xbox version, you got to play the PC version." So I did pick up. I have Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 on Steam because they go on sale for like $1. I just haven't played them on Steam. So, but if we wanted to do that as like a group thing sometime, I'd definitely be open to that. One of the cool things I do know about the like mechanics of the game, or I don't know if you want to call it a mechanic, but is just the director AI that runs in the background.
Yes.
So that every run is different. You're not doing the same thing every time. It picks and chooses like when to send zombies after you and like how many and stuff. Is like the it was very clever the way that they came up with that to keep the game, interesting every time.
Yeah, it picks and chooses how hard it wants to screw you over.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, Turtle Rock also was assistant dev with it as well with that game too. And you could tell that
Back 4 Blood, right?
They did Back 4 Blood and Evolved.
Oh, Evolved, that's right.
Yeah, so you could tell that they've just been trying to chase that same high for from Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, and they've never been able to repeat it.
That's all they've done is Back 4 Blood and Evolve, at least on Xbox.
Yeah, and Evolved also was a game that I'm like, if you look into the history of Evolved, it's a miracle that game even came out.
Wasn't Evolved kind of one of those first asymmetrical horror games, or like kind of monster?
It was
games
one of the
too?
early
Yes.
asymmetrical horror. Or
Because I remember that
asymmetrical
I was like,
movies,
"Oh, that's a really cool idea," but I was like, "It's kind of obnoxious though." Some of the some of the ideas behind it, like having to like level up the creature and stuff like that, and that's like a if you can sort of thing. I'm like, I mean, I get it, but it just was. It wasn't for me.
It wasn't for anyone. That's why it died.
Aw.
Still lasted longer than Concord. You can give it that.
Damn.
Yep. Almost any game that fails still lasts longer than Concord.
At this point, yeah.
So, all right. Jason, what about your number 4?
So my number 4 is getting a lot of light now because a remake of it just came out. But my number 4 is going to be Silent Hill 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean this game, it's not.
And we're talking about the original, right?
So I'm putting the original for right now. I've been watching a lot of stuff for the remake. The remake looks
like
the
remake's bad.
The remake
Not
looks
a-
actually
not always.
really, really good right now. The remake looks really, really good. But I have more playtime with the second one, so I can't put the remake right now over it just because I haven't played it as much. Yeah, I haven't played enough. For what I've seen in the remake, some of the stuff that they do, I think it's pretty cool what they've done. I do like some of the little changes. It's not very much, but some of the things that you're like, okay, since I've played the original, like, and it's in the main character's mind a lot, or a lot of the stuff is in his mind and everything like that. It's cool how they kind of show that in a way. And then obviously some of the other like villains or characters that are in obviously the remake or the original and the remake. Eddie's one of my favorite. I guess if you can say villains, it's hard to say they are because they're all tortured in different ways. And yeah, you should never murder anybody, but still, it's interesting how like you can play, how they can play stuff, and you can sometimes feel sympathy, especially for the main character when you find out what the main character does and the reason why he does it. When you're kind of, or when I first played, I was like, okay, he did it. If I mean, I didn't know, but like, oh, you're like, oh, he did it for this reason. You're like, oh, no, there's a little bit of both, and that's just why is he my hero? Like, why is he hero, and why do I feel sympathy for him at the end? Is crazy. The endings that you can get, there's multiple endings. which is
Yeah.
always fun to see just the torment that he went through. And that's the other reason why too. It's like there's some scary things into it, but more it's more just like it is a heartbreaking game. I mean, it's so sad for what he had to go through, what he's still going through, what he's building in his brain to go through to figure out was he right or was he wrong for what he did or what's going on and everything like that. So I mean, that's why I put this one as my number 4, just because, like I said, it's a very very good game and very psychological horror and thriller.
Well, that was a funny thing. Like Silent Hill 2 was the game that put the franchise, especially on the map. Like I enjoyed the first game.
Same. The
But
first one just
it
was
didn't.
so bland and not in a bad way. It's just like
A
it's
little
just
bit. A little
yeah.
bit. I don't disagree necessarily, but like I definitely like dug on the atmosphere and everything on
Yeah.
that in the first game. Like especially it was the setup. But I know my brother loved the second game. He played the ever hell out of it himself, and he was also watching some people play through it, and he's like, it looked like they were made. Yeah, like kind of to your point, and he found it more of a detriment that they were being a little more on the face of what was going on for the story, and also like kind of toned down some of the puzzles and stuff like that. Where he's like, hey, me as a young kid was playing through the second game, no problem. You're telling me you bunch of lunks couldn't figure it out, sort of thing. But remakes do what remakes do. But it's just kind of interesting hearing his take and stuff like that. But
I'm always a fan of remakes in a way, because if it's such a great game, and again, all of us played the original back when it came out, whenever it came out,
right,
and this is its chance for it to come back and have more people get involved with it. I mean, to me, games
that's a
need to be
possibility.
yeah, for me, games need to be out to everybody. Like, if it's my favorite game, I want it to be your favorite game. Like, I don't want it to just be hidden. Like, oh, you can't have this. This is all mine. Blah, blah, blah. Like,
Exactly.
I want everybody to love this thing so much, where it's like, I can go down the street and be like, hey, did you ever play Silent Hill 2? He's like, what, you mean that old PS2 game? No, I mean, like, just, oh, you mean the remake? I'm like, yeah, either one, because, like, it's the same story. As long as the same core and the values are still there, I absolutely love that. If they say the remake came out and they just said, oh, James is this superhero kind of guy and all this kind of stuff, then I'd be like, all right, we have a little issue, because then that's not the tone of the game. But no, like, I mean, everything that I've seen so far in the game, I'm like, all right, the guy's still the guy. Eddie's still crazy as crazy can be. Everything like that. I mean, Maria is still Maria. Mary's still, going through what she had to go through, kind of thing. I'm happy with that, and if anybody can just fall in love with the new one, and then even just fall in love with the new one enough to be like, oh, I heard that the original might have been better, or this. Play
Did
the
some
original
things differently.
yeah, play the original, see what it is, and then you can be the judge and be like, was this one better, was the other one better? Like, then you can make your own decision on, oh yeah, maybe they shouldn't have done the remake this way, maybe they should have kept it this way, or man, this remake was so good that they
Right.
changed this tone here. That's really cool that they did that, kind of thing like that. And that's why I've been kind of like addicted to watching a lot of Silent Hill 2 like streamers like talk about the game and just play it and everything. And I'm happy that the score is as good as it is right now. And who knows, maybe we see a remake of the first one. And I would love to see a remake of the first one, because again, we have
That
the
game
atmosphere.
definitely needed
Yes,
some
exactly.
Definitely.
tuned up
we can-
gameplay.
we can make the gameplay better. We have a world now, and the cool thing about getting the first one next, then we all know the third one was a sequel to the first one. Then we can go into the third one, and again, it's sequels it's remakes and sequels of all that kind of stuff. But again, I think this is a franchise that's been gone enough that we need something. And like, as we're seeing this, like, people are excited to see kind of just some psychological horror thriller kind of stuff like that. And
yeah.
you can make your own idea of what this world is or why this world is the way it is, kind of thing.
I'm
So
just
the-
happy Bloober Team didn't mess it up. From
Same.
all accounts, it sounds like they haven't.
No, for what I've seen and what I've watched, I no, like the combat in there makes sense. It makes sense for why he does this and why he does that. He's like, there's no super parrying, like, Leon Kennedy being a trainer. Like, he's dodging out of the way of something, yes, but it's like he's more stumbling out of it, because if I was in a fight with something or a monster like that is or is not really there, like, I could I could probably dodge and do the same stuff too. It's not like he's trying to fight off a monster with punching boulders and garbage.
You tell me he's not doing some parkour and kicking the monsters in the face. 0
Right.
out of 10.
Look
Not
at that. Vanquish
touching.
is going to be playing some Silent Hill 2 tonight.
Oh,
Thanks, hope you enjoy it, man.
So the one that just came out, is it what's it technically? Is it Silent Hill 2 remaster, Silent Hill 2 remake? What is it?
Remake.
Remake. Okay. And so they remade the second one, but they haven't remade the first one.
No, so
2 was much more the bigger game of the franchise, and that's been basically the darling of the franchise that everybody points to as like, if you want your definitive Silent Hill game, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, Konami's still a business. They know, they're like, hey, what'll print money? Remaking Silent Hill 2. That's what'll print money.
They're starting with Snake Eater as the first Metal Gear remake,
Right.
too.
Because that one's canonically the first one, right? Or
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But it's
chronologically, not
technically the
chronologically.
third.
Chronologically
is what I meant.
first.
Yeah, and again, like the second ending, the game for the ending for the second one, it's just like, if you've never played it, I don't want to spoil it, but it tugs at you, and then you can kind of start you start figuring stuff out during the game. You're like, oh, that makes sense.
Silent Hill
way too much.
That little
Silent Hill
Eno is a real heart tugger.
Silent Hill 2 was so big it got an Xbox version, right?
I believe it did.
No, it did. I have it.
Yeah, I'm looking at mine too. I'm like, I see my PlayStation one.
They also say that the Xbox version actually is the definitive version. They added a couple more things to that one.
That I didn't know.
possible.
Was it an original Xbox game?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's weird, because if you had the Xbox, you got Silent Hill 2 and 4, but you didn't get 1 or 3.
One thing I do know about, I don't know if this was Silent Hill 1 or 2, but I know about the development of the game is the atmosphere of, like, it being like super foggy was due to a limitation of the hardware, and it just became like,
But it works so goddamn.
Yeah.
That was the first one. That was on the PlayStation. That was
Okay.
the reason.
In my opinion, it works so well.
Oh, yeah.
Because it really gave you that spooky, creepy atmosphere to this weird, deserted town that you are just kind of walking around through, maybe stumbling across a person or two and whatnot, and you got crazy like creatures coming out with your radio that gives you a bit of a heads up. But
that's one of my favorite things is when your radio starts, stuff starts static, and you're like, what's going on? And then oh shoot, that's just because of an enemy. And then
and sometimes you can be prepared, and sometimes that thing just sneaks up on you and bites you in the keister. But I mean, like, that's kind of the thing. Like, you think about it too, like, devs of those days were finding creative ways around the limitations of the hardware, and we're doing and like things like that works freaking perfectly. It's like, and I don't see necessarily like why you had to change that. I don't know if it's true, like a little bit, like they kind of lifted kind of the fog of war basically from the remake, which I heard, but that adds so much to the whole setting.
Yeah, I heard
that's what I heard.
Like a few years ago, like like I said, I don't know almost anything about Silent Hill games. So was there a remake or a remaster of one of the earlier games?
Yeah,
like
2 and 3.
Yeah.
Okay, that's probably what it was, because I heard that there was like a remaster, or maybe they were working on it, and because the hardware was so much more powerful, they didn't have to do the fog, and it just like ruined the atmosphere of the game.
I hear this one's really foggy.
This one has it's like I said, the one that just came out today.
It just came out today.
It just came out today.
Okay. So, all right. Well, I think I'll go next, and we'll let Filter finish off our number 4s. So originally, I put the third game in this franchise on this list, but right before we went live, I just switched it to this whole franchise in general. But it was one that we were someone mentioned before we went live. That's the Arkham games. Originally, I put Arkham Knight, but when we were talking about it, like how spooky like Arkham Asylum is, I'm like, yeah, they can all be pretty spooky. So I'll just say the whole Arkham franchise. Because probably the scariest though of all of them would be the first one.
Yeah.
With Scarecrow and the whole making
Killer Croc.
well, but yeah, there's the Killer Croc part 2, but like Scarecrow, not only the like dream sequence fight, but like when he makes you think like your game crashed or whatever.
Yeah, kind
Uh,
of takes you back to the if you played Metal Gear Solid 1, takes you back to the old Psycho Mantis days.
Psycho
Of like, what happened? And it's like, oh wait, you're messing with me. Touche, Scarecrow.
And yeah, the whole Killer Croc is he's underwater the whole time, and you're just like
Yeah.
waiting for him to pop out at you at any second. But the whole franchise is all very spooky. The reason why I said Arkham Knight originally is because Arkham Knight takes place during Halloween, so that's why I thought of that one at first.
Oh,
That
it
one's still
does it?
spook. Yeah, it takes place over the course of Halloween, because
And
it
it
has
has like pumpkins everywhere too.
and it has a very similar plot as Batman Begins, because they're using the like Scarecrow's like the main bad guy, and he's using his fear toxin over the whole city, which is basically what happens in Batman Begins. But there's a lot of creepy stuff in that one too, like Professor Pig and Man Bats. Oh my god, that thing scared the bejesus out of me the first time that thing shows up, because it'll just show up randomly. You grapple around all the time, and then all of a sudden you grapple, and this bat just pops out and screams at you. So yeah, just the whole Arkham games in general. They took me. I often say that I was not a fan of the Arkham games at first,
Fake fan.
but they grew on me, and
Tourist.
I love all the Arkham games. I've never been like huge into superhero DC or Marvel. And
Batman's not a superhero, tourist.
How is he not a superhero? Just because he doesn't have superpowers doesn't mean he's not a superhero.
Exactly. It's in the name.
His money is a superpower.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding with you. I'm just kidding with you.
I know you're just messing with me, but yeah, I was never like huge into Marvel or DC or anything until they really had their explosion in the late 2000s. But yeah, I wasn't huge on the Arkham games at the beginning. My main reason for that was I wasn't a huge fan of the combat mainly because like I'm freaking Batman. Why is it taking me like 10 punches to take out one guy? I should be able to knock him out, 1 or 2 punches. I'm freaking Batman, but it was just the game mechanics. Once I really learned, I've grown on them, and I love the Arkham games now. But yeah, the whole Arkham franchise is great. I think all of them do. There's something that each one does better than all the others, including Origins. I think Origins is underrated. I like all the Arkham games, and yeah.
When I did my playthrough, I didn't mind Origins so much. It was definitely janky as hell, but it was still fun and the same.
And
Never played Origins yet. That's still on the list.
Origins has some of the best boss fights, and the shot gloves are just super overpowered.
Yeah,
Which is why it's the first one chronologically, and the shot gloves don't show up again because they're too powerful. But yeah, the Arkham games are all great, and they're some of them are more spooky than others. Like I can't really remember much of Arkham City being spooky or Arkham Origins, but I remember Arkham Asylum and Arkham Knight being spooky.
City wasn't spooky. It was just more open and more reference based, I feel like, because they added people like, Calendar Man and Deadshot and all them in there. I thought it was a better game personally for me because I liked it more.
City
like,
is my favorite.
Arkham Asylum is just more creepy. Obviously, like we're talking about the Scarecrow level. You got a giant Scarecrow, and you got to go into the morgue to trigger it, and your dead parents come to life, and they're talking to you.
Right. I forgot about it. They pop out of the body bag. I forgot about that.
Like I said, Arkham Asylum is definitely more of like a psychological thriller, if you ask me, more than anything else, because it goes after a lot of like the psychological villains for Batman too, on top of like the big monster ones, you know. With Killer Croc, obviously.
It worked out so well.
Yeah, and then like Cities is, I think it's just like they have like a better depth of like, characters. Obviously, like Solomon Grundy is like one of the nice ones that they add in there just out of nowhere.
Yeah, wasn't he kind of in the basement of Penguin's bar or whatever?
Under the Iceberg Lounge.
Yeah. It was like, okay.
And like City tried to also capture that Killer Croc vibe again because there's a giant like great white shark in
the iceberg.
In the Iceberg Lounge too.
Yeah.
But I just feel like Arkham Asylum was just like way more contained. Obviously, it's got that like insane asylum aesthetics to it because it is an insane asylum as well as a prison.
And then you were finding the audio logs from Oh God, the guy
Joker.
that's the head,
I mean, Riddler.
not Riddler. The guy that's
Oh,
the
that's-
head of the Arkham.
Oh,
facility,
Strange.
basically. Not
Not-
Hugo Strange. No.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I forget who his name
Blanking
is,
on
yeah.
his name.
Well, then it's not even just the audio
But
logs. You
it-
also
but no,
find
it's
like
just- it's just crazy because like the guy starts like basically kind of going insane himself, and also kind of merging with the like almost a personality of his ancestor that first opened the Arkham penitentiary. Basically, I forget his name at the moment, but like you
Was
find
it Jeremiah Arkham?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
You find those audio logs and you just slowly but surely, like, as you collect each and every one, you hear him going further and further insane.
and then you also have the audio logs of all the people in Arkham too,
Mhm,
his villains, which adds a lot of flavor to it. And
It
like I
does.
said, the first villain you fight is Zaz, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You just
Yeah.
take him out too.
Yeah, and he's just basically just a glorified like slasher villain. That's all he is, you know. So
Or was it Amadeus Arkham?
one or the other, I can't remember.
Okay. But yeah. So all right. Filter, you want to finish this off with your number 4?
Sure thing. My number 4 is a licensed game. Definitely, they did an awesome job, I think, of recreating basically the old scenery and setting up the atmosphere. To me is a big key factor, but and then making a creature terrifying once again, which would be Alien Isolation. I was very surprised by the game myself, and I was hearing a lot of it, how freaky it was, and I know the one downside is like once you get the flamethrower, it's kind of game over, because it definitely adds like this uber defense for yourself a little bit. But I mean, I just thought most of all, like they really did an excellent job also with like some of the sound design, because like I did a stream of it and it was fun watching Melee James freak out while he was trying to play it.
Yeah,
He
not that
kept
long
like
ago.
delaying the inevitable. But I remember I did a play. I gotta get back to it. And I had started doing a bit of a playthrough, and oh my god, like I knew what was gonna be happening, but at the same time, I was just so tense and just like on edge, waiting for the creature just to start jumping out of vents, killing me at any moment, stalking me down the play in any of the corridors and stuff like that. And again, you want to talk about claustrophobic feeling, those ships that you are, or even their space stations, like even though they have like some big kind of like areas, again, kind of like BioShock in this sense, but they have those some big areas, but mainly they're all just tightly contained, and you are that's like you could try and run and get away from the damn thing, but man, like there's not a big gap that you can ever create between you and the xenomorph anytime it is hunting you down. And you have to practice your ultimate bit of patience and stealth for the game, especially if you want to survive very early on. And even though if you get a pistol, it doesn't matter. It don't matter. You can I clipped it too. I'm like, I accidentally, because I do have like sometimes with like first person shooters, I have a bit of an itchy trigger finger. And sometimes if I'm just hovering over the mouse key, I'll just sometimes click it and boom. And that's what happened. I was trying to hide from the xenomorph. I heard it scurrying about up above. I accidentally shot into the air. I'm like, oh no. And then there it slowly comes the tail and then the whole beast. I'm like, well, I'm gonna scream like a girl, but I'll at least go out firing. So I just started unloading with the pistol, like die, 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 die. It killed me. So, but I mean, what the really cool part to it to me too was like how well they recreated the I don't know, like retro tech, because like it's supposed to be future tech, but like there's still so many like older antiquated stuff like built into everything, like all the main like the old TV screens and stuff like that. They're still using like tape and everything for a lot of different things. So it's kind of like that cool mix of what they set up in Alien and Aliens, but mainly, of course, in Alien.
But the future was supposed to be like all CRT monitors, but
Yeah, thank you. I was trying to look. I was like, wait, what was the acronym for it? CRT.
Alien and RoboCop are like the same way.
yeah, yep.
And Fallout.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Fallout that's an
Like
interesting
retro
one too.
futuristic.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say Alien Isolation hits my number 4. Definitely a game I got to get back to. Very freaking a good use of the IP. Last I could think of too. Like it's like, oh wow, you guys resurrected it, and we kind of cleansed the palate for people that may have gone in on Colonial Marines. Yeah, which I heard was yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, like, and I've heard recently, allegedly, there's gonna be an Alien Isolation 2
that just got announced yesterday.
Yeah, that could be good news, could be bad news, because like some games are just a lightning in a bottle, and you can try and recreate that moment, but you can't always recapture that same feeling. I've got another game like that on my list, but this one in particular might have been it, because it's like you kind of had this, you had a great opportunity. You got to resurrect a cinematic universe in a video game, and even it was a prequel to Aliens, if I recall correctly, because it's supposed to be Ripley's daughter that you're playing as. So after she goes missing and her daughter's grown up and now is taking jobs and stuff like that, so kind of that filler in between. So, and I think they did some DLC where they brought Ripley in for some, either like recreating the first movie or something like that. I don't know, but yeah. And I mean, like, it is. I grabbed it again. I grabbed it for free on PC when Epic was dropping. I'm like, hey, why not? You guys are giving it for free, sure. But I wouldn't mind having it for Steam to get like the achievements and stuff like that at some point. But definitely, like I said, fun game. God, the tension is there, and anytime you know that Xenomorph is just crawling through those if like normally I'm a guy that's more than happy to start crawling through some vents to get away from enemies. That's the one time you don't want to be in that in that situation, because next thing you know, that thing's right there face to face with you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and you don't see it until it is face to face, because like you said, how dark everything is and how well it just masks with that darkness. You're like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, because the next thing, all you hear is that hiss coming from it, and you're like, oh no.
The hiss, you see the silver of the teeth, and it's like, okay, it's over.
Yep.
Yeah, and my buddy Christian's here saying, the devs just announced this week that the sequel, Isolation 2. Yep.
I haven't even played the first one, so I have no opinion.
Yeah, like I said, I don't do scary. I've heard nothing but good things from people who like scary stuff. It looks terrifying. I played it for about 5 minutes for Game Pass Quest one time in order to get a few Microsoft points, and I just hid in a corner for 5 minutes until the quest was like survive 5 minutes without getting killed by the Xenomorph or something like that. So I just hid in a corner and hope it didn't find me, and it didn't. But I was like sweating bullets the whole time, and it. So
then if you have the motion sensor tracker, you hear the beep 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 beep.
Yeah,
beep.
and it started.
It goes away, but then
picking up.
Like,
you're like
beep 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 beep. Oh no!
But yeah, the kind of like we were talking about with the Left 4 Dead earlier with the director AI. The AI that they programmed into the game, the Xenomorph, is like pretty genius. Yeah, everything all right? What was that?
Somebody outside my house.
Drag racing.
I was gonna say somebody's speeding down.
Because the way the AI functions in that game for the Xenomorph is that it has essentially two brains, one that always knows your location and one that doesn't, and the one that knows your location feeds hints to the brain that doesn't. It's like that's pretty.
Oh, that's messed
the way
up.
They come up with that.
Yeah.
That is messed up. I didn't know that part.
Oh yeah. That's why sometimes you're going around. You're like, okay, there's no way he knows where I'm at now, and then for some odd reason you just turn a corner. It's like, why is it there? And it's because it knows it knows the plan of attack you were trying to go with. And it was going out of its way, but it was going out of its way to the way you were kind of going, so it would still be there.
Yeah, it kind of pops up like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah.
Saw you trying to kill me. I don't like that.
that game was going to be that game was my number 5 for a couple of times, but I bumped it down to Phantasmophobia because I was thinking like you're by yourself, it's scary, or again, like I said, the multiple players still scary. But yeah, those two were fighting for the number 5 spot.
And I would I don't want to play this game because I don't like scary stuff like this. But if there was one thing I really, really would never ever play, would be this game in VR. That would probably be the most terrifying video game of all time.
Yeah, that would not be a good experience. Well, I mean,
because it is in VR, but there's no way I'm ever going to play that.
Now, you just watch vicariously through Melee Games when he plays it again, or harass him to play it again, so we can watch him crap his pants as he tries to get through it more.
Yes. Oh, Jason. So, because I know that there are two very similarly named games, and
I keep saying the wrong game. I just now realized that I looked over. I'm like, am I saying the wrong name? I'm like, yep, I am.
Phantasmophobia's,
yeah.
You're talking about Phasmophobia.
Yes.
Okay.
I said
there's also Phasmagoria is another game.
No, I think there is a game called Phantasmophobia too, isn't there?
There's two very similarly.
There's one. I said that I was like, wait, I just said the wrong game. And I'm looking over like I did. I'm saying Phasmophobia.
Phasmophobia. That's what I thought you were talking about.
Not the point and click crazy other horror game that's still messed up too. I just realized I said that. I was like, wait, I said the wrong name, didn't I?
Let's see here. I'm trying to see if I can find it, and not off the top of my head, but okay. I figured you were talking about Phasmophobia.
I am. I just realized I said, I'm like, wait a second. I just said the point and click game, didn't I?
So, all right. Last call on Alien Isolation.
Just hey, if you're wanting to get the bejesus scared out of you, play it.
Yeah,
and especially if you're especially if you're an Alien fan, like I said, just kind of catching the atmosphere of it, the recreation of that style of spaceships, the innards, and everything like that, and there's a good attention to, like I said, just the attention to detail to it, and it serves as that kind of branch in between Alien and Aliens, so it kind of does that little extra storytelling there too.
Yeah, I don't have any intention of playing it because that game is terrifying.
Watch a no commentary playthrough.
Better to watch someone get the bejesus
that too, yeah.
So, all right. So on to number 3. Jason, you want to start off our number 3s?
Yeah, I can start at number 3. All right. So number 3 is my favorite game that's not a game, unfortunately.
Favorite game that's not a game?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we'll never be able to play it. And
I know what it is.
Yep. And unfortunately, unless you're one of the lucky few that never updated your PlayStation 4, you'll never be able to download it.
We talked about this on the Halloween episode of Party Chat last year.
Yeah. So my number 3 is PT.
Yep.
Oh, the PT.
I had a feeling that was going to be on someone's list, and I figured Alien Isolation would also be on someone's list.
I'm going to just call it PT because that's the way it was. Like, granted, we all know it was going to be Silent Hills, but we don't know exactly what the game was going to be. I only know what the demo I played is, and it was just a playable teaser kind of thing.
Do you still have access to it?
I unfortunately do not.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah.
Bogus.
So when that game came out, that was one of the most addicted, just anything I could play ever was. I wanted to know more about the world. Anytime something like a new hint of something came up, and this was before we knew, how to get to the real ending and everything like that. People were just coming up with these crazy ideas. Oh, now you need to plug in your mic to do this. No, you need to, listen to the radio to, hear the woman laugh at you, to hear like a true story. You need to look at the fridge. And then you need to stare up into the right-hand corner because she's always looking down at you, kind of thing like that. There's like so many just random things that were just coming out at the time about this game. Also, anytime you got caught by her, effing scaring, scare the bejesus out of you. And you're pretty much in a demo that's just limbo. and your whole goal is just to get out of limbo to figure out what this thing is, to figure out more of the story and everything like that. So I absolutely loved the story that we got to it. I would have loved to have seen what the game could have been. Um, I also, it's some people know about it. A lot of people don't know about it. If you heard me speak about it, you probably have watched it, but we've only seen the one. We've seen the demo that we've played, so we've seen the ending. You know, where you see Norman Reedus and you see what the game is, and then I believe it was a month or two later at the Tokyo Game Show, they also had a trailer for the game, and it was something completely different. Where if you have never seen that trailer for Silent Hills at the Tokyo Game Show, do watch it because that is messed up in what they do with that too. So the demo was great. The thing after that was fantastic. Just unfortunately, it became something that we will never be able to play.
And why
Well,
is that?
Well, because Konami became the bad Konami that we knew and got rid of everything. And yeah, I mean, hopefully Konami, like I said, that's why with Silent Hill 2 remake and everything like coming out, maybe the good Konami's coming back and realizing, hey, we have franchises that are actually pretty good. We should let people do their thing.
Yeah, and Suikoden.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's coming out too, right?
Suikoden 1 and 2, yeah. Then
Yeah.
they also did the collections of all the Castlevania games recently too.
Yeah.
And because they had a terrible follow with Kojima, that's how we got Death Stranding. So Konami is still bad Konami in my opinion.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, if you ever had a chance to play it, it was a great. I mean, it was the perfect way to get somebody interested in what this game could have been, what it was trying to do, scare the crap out of you, made you in this world because again, it was first person. Also, I mean, I know it didn't give them ideas because games take forever to make, but also Resident Evil 7 kind of picked up the ball where that kind of went in a different way, but still, it was kind of nice that we still kind of got something like that. But yeah, no, nothing to me could have been more frightening than PT when that demo first came out and how to solve all the random little puzzles to find that little baby in the sink and realizing what his name is so you can get out of limbo and all that stuff.
I'm sensing a theme from Kojimbo.
Well, the thing that's going to be interesting too is we don't know, or I forgot what the name of the game is because he announced it, but Kojima and
Del Toro?
No,
Oh.
not Keegan Michael Key. Jordan Peele and Kojima are working on a horror game, so that's that could be interesting as well.
Overdose, I think, is what it's called.
Is that what it's okay? I
Something
can
like
remember.
that.
I knew there was I think it was like OD or over, something like that.
OD,
And-
yeah. That
Yeah,
sounds
so
familiar.
Coming to Xbox. Weird.
Yeah, so that could be something. Who knows? Again, is it going to? It's for me. It can't be, and I know he won't want to try to do what he did with that one. But I would have, like I said, I would love to see what could have been what his idea with this game could have been.
So I'm trying to pull it up right now because it's so essentially what I was going with that was because they made it like not backwards compatible and they took it off the store, so the only way you can get it is if you can't even re-download it if you previously owned it, so the only way you can get it is if you have a PS4 that still has it on it.
Yep.
So I'm on eBay right now, but for some stupid reason, it's giving me all the prices in Canadian, and I have no idea why. And I'm trying to figure out how the heck to change. I've never ever selected Canada as my location, so I'm trying to figure out why the heck it's giving me prices in Canadian and how to fix it. So I'll just give you. I don't know what these convert to, but I'm looking at PS4s with PT on them, and they're all like over $1,000 on eBay. So, yeah. All right. That was Jason with PT. Carl, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is good old Dino Crisis for the PS1.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I honestly, when I think of games that like scare me, I think of when I was a little kid where I was actually still afraid of these horror movies. I've been kind of vastly desensitized to these horror movies as I've gotten older, to the point where I laugh at like even the most gory stuff now. So I think back to just playing Dino Crisis. The first time you see a Velociraptor and he's like biting your arm, and you get that crazy feeling to it. The Tyrannosaurus Rex that comes in and just bursts through the window to eat the scientist. I don't think zombies are as scary. Like I was scared of the original Resident Evil 2, but it was more so like that like jump scare of like the crows bursting in and like starting to peck you and breaking the glass. That part scared me. But I don't know. Just thinking about like dinosaurs. And it's like, how am I supposed to fight a dinosaur? You know? Like, I mean, it's like
more of an unknown. Yeah.
You know, like zombies, you just go like, oh, they're kind of stupid. You know, I can kind of live with them. But I was like, it's a Velociraptor. This thing is like taller than my little girl character, my little woman here. And he's just going to like mess me up in every way, shape, and form. It's like, and then I got the tank controls and everything. And I guess it's always it's one of these games that I want a remake for. Like, I figure, like, I know a lot of people like have different opinions on the Resident Evil games. I think they're all great, the remakes. And after playing so many different Capcom games like Exoprimal, Monster Hunter, and even Resident Evil, I'm just like, I just want this. I just want that scary, really dark, over the top, you know, game that is Dino Crisis, because I feel like it's going to be even better. I feel like it'll be even scarier nowadays too. And the reason why I keep like going back to like this Dino Crisis tangent is because I legit was like afraid everywhere I was going in Dino Crisis, because I'm like, what's going to pop out? What's going to kill me? Do I have enough ammo to fight this stuff? You know. Another thing too is like when I think of Dino Crisis, I also think of like it was the more like serious Resident Evil. Like Resident Evil, like when you play like 1 or 2 or something like that, there's like weird voice acting and stuff like that. It doesn't seem to always take itself seriously. But Dino Crisis 1, like from what I can remember, I never had like a laugh moment. It was like, it just felt like, yeah, guys, this is some serious stuff that we got to get through here, you know?
Some of the stuff Regina says is there's some like tone that you're like, all right, that was pretty funny. I mean, I get what you mean, but the tone, like there's sometimes you're like, I would not be sounding like this if I had these monster or these dinosaurs coming after me like this. But yeah. I get what you mean.
Filter, do you have anything to say about this?
I mean, it's been so. I've been meaning to keep firing it back up and to do a playthrough, because I remember loving it back in the day. Again, I got through some of it, but not as much as like my brother loved that series as well, and I watched him play some of it. I mean, it was kind of like those days. It was kind of a Resident Evil clone, but with dinosaurs. But that was the appeal for me for sure, because I fucking love dinosaurs. Sorry. I love dinosaurs, and you bring dinosaurs in a fun way, and that was certainly an new and interesting, fun way of doing it, and at least for me, for the time. So it was cool. I don't have the same attachment to it like some people do, though. Like, I understand why people want like a remake or a new sequel or anything for that franchise, because it was pretty neat, but it just didn't quite grab me as it did with others.
Yeah, I would much rather. I've never played Dino Crisis, and I've barely played any of the Resident Evil games, but I would definitely be more inclined to play Dino Crisis because I like dinosaurs better than zombies.
Also, we got to get the taste of the third one out of our mouths, because that one is an abomination.
Yeah, I want to forget about the third one.
You don't like dinosaurs in space?
Wait, is that where they took Dino Crisis in space?
Yeah.
The last one I remember was Dino Crisis 2, and that was it.
I only know that because Carl told me about it recently. I think on Party Chat.
He's
So-
going to grab it.
I was gonna
It
say
was a-
Jason's had enough. He's done. He's like,
It's
no,
like, he's just like, all right, see you later,
dinosaurs
guys.
in space. Sorry, nope, out.
It was an Xbox exclusive too, an original one. It's the
Huh.
funny part about
Oh,
it.
that
There it
expl-
is.
That's
Ah.
why I didn't play it. Huh, cool.
Jason just ups and leaves. Oh, he's probably gonna go get it. So
Hiding it where it belongs, behind everything that doesn't need to be there. Low part on the collection, just sitting there collecting dust because, yeah, I'm with you. That third one was,
Nobody
No,
liked it.
It doesn't exist, right?
yeah. Yeah, I wish I can block the memory. Like,
It's a Chinese knockoff. That's
There.
all you have to say.
It's the
Chinese
three-headed
knockoff.
dragon meme. That's what it is. All right.
Oh, or the same thing, but it's like the hand drawn horse. And the first two parts are really good, and the last part
Yeah.
looks like it was drawn by a second grader.
Yeah, exactly.
Good stuff. And yeah, I finally found it. The what we were talking about earlier, Jason. Phantasmagoria is that.
Yeah,
fun to play.
I just thought, yeah. Which
So-
has some messed up game over endings, like movies or whatever.
that game. Oh, I thought this was a recent game. This game came out in '95.
There's some mess. There's if you watch some of the game overs like scenes on that game, it is messed up what they do to that girl.
So, all right. So we got Dino Crisis, we got PT. All right, I'll go, and then Jason can finish up our number. Oh, Jason already did number 3, so that would leave Filter and me for number 3. Yeah, let's go Filter, and I'll finish up number 3s.
Okay, well, speaking of boring ass zombies and all that sort of jazz, Resident Evil 2. What can I say? The original, and I'm not talking about that remake. Screw that remake.
Oh, is it?
I love the. I love their. To me, I'm a purist. The original
Do
Resident
tell.
Evil 2. I know, right? So shocking.
The remake
no-
is so much better.
They messed up the storylines. They shouldn't have combined the A and B stories, in my opinion.
I'm okay with that.
They jacked it up. I didn't like it.
They did a great job with that one.
You did-
My pray
that-
tell.
You're wrong.
I don't know if Carl is being genuine or he's just trying to troll.
He's just
Filter right
ripping
now.
me to get. I think he's
Column A
being
and column
genuine.
B.
But no, Resident Evil 2 for me was definitely like kind of like one of the first few games that I did get to play on the PlayStation 1 originally. Hanging out over at a friend's house. It was his birthday. He got the PlayStation. He got Resident Evil 2 and Final Fantasy 7. And I remember we were all just taking turns just playing Resident Evil 2. You'd get as far as you could before dying and stuff like that. There's that fun to it. And I love the whole police station. The soundtrack for me is what is definitely like the big draw. I love the original soundtrack for the game. Very, very adding to the situation, to the atmosphere and stuff like that. But it's there, but it also is not, even though it's like on like it is like so many soundtracks, they're on a repeat, but it doesn't get so annoyingly so. It's just nicely comfy in the background, just hanging out, letting you know what's going on through the music and stuff like that. But it plays well to each area. And I mean, for me playing that originally, yeah, I got freaked out by the slow walking zombies and everything like that. But that was like the whole then resource management was kind of the added experience of trying to make sure you had enough ammo to take out certain zombies. If you had to know when to run, when to gun, until you got really good at the game, and this is called, you knew what the frick you're doing. Then the fun too was then for me that was kind of like another kind of early experience of you had these A-B storylines, so there was like a flip situation depending on whose side you were playing first, whose side you're playing second. I thought that added to like some of the extra storytelling going on, and it gave them each then like their own little unique storylines going. I like that, you had the two big villain. Yeah, basically like the B-side story. You have like just a cluster bomb of big villains that you're having to fight, either the Tyrant or Mr. X. And then But what I especially just really got hooked into with the game was especially early on when you first get to the police station, and after you've already run into the dying police officer, you're starting to go through some of the hallways. The camera angles start playing with you a little bit. They actually start going into different spots that the game doesn't do for the rest of the dang game, which was kind of unfortunate. But like then just that setup for the liquor as it just starts crawling towards you on the ceiling, drops down to start attacking you, is kind of their new version of the hunter from the first game. I just thought that was just so creepy and cool. It was like kind of this weird, kind of like a xenomorph, but like with this all that skin exposed, the brain and everything. And I mean, at first it's like, oh my god, what the hell do I do? But you know, again, learn the game. But those early parts of the game really just kind of gave you that tone. And I personally, this is definitely one of my favorites to go through and replay every now and again, even if it is boring zombies.
That game is like I said, I can never choose between Final Fantasy VII or that. Those are my two favorite games of all time. So I mean,
it was a good time. It was a good time.
I'm 100% with you on all that. So obviously the liquor was always just the most terrifying thing at first because you get the FMV of like, all right, what the heck is this thing?
Yeah.
Then you're doing all the stuff that you need to do. You get the first medallion, and then you feel like you're safe finally because you took out this gigantic monster. You're coming back with this extra metal and key, and next you know it, these hands just come through the police station.
Yeah, you start getting
scare this bejesus out of you for a jump scare because you're like, oh, I'm safe. No, I'm not. What the heck?
The occasion when, like we said earlier, when jump scares can be used effectively, and that was certainly it. It was called too. Like once it was like knowing the game is like, oh, if I find this item, I can close those things off, so I don't have to worry about that. Because you notice these things throughout the game too as you're playing. You're like, huh, there's that electrical box there by the shutters. Could I ever use that? And then lo and behold, you can, and you can like secure off certain areas and stuff like that. So it was one of the, and then like it was, then it sparked me to go and play Resident Evil 1 and got into the series a bit. But yeah, 2 is just my favorite. I like the Claire and Leon. I thought they're both great characters, serve their purposes. OG Claire is still the best. But yeah, no, just like I said, there's still a very, and yes, I won't deny that it has some very schlocky kind of moments here and there, especially when, because yeah, it was 90s voice acting for video games, and it was kind of corny at times, especially when Ada falls to her death and you got Leon, Ada! Just little things like that. But I thought that added to a little bit of a charm to it. Yeah. Anyway,
I think speedrunners ruined that game for me.
Oh, I don't watch that stuff.
I just was watching somebody like play the entire playthrough of Resident Evil 2, and I'm just like,
oof.
Yeah, this kind of makes it look boring when you play it like this.
I can't beat it as fast as some of the speedrunners, but my fastest time beating that game is, I believe, 72 minutes or something like that.
Oh, dang. Well, and this was the thing, because this was pre-internet. There was a I forget which gaming magazine it was, but they put out an April Fool's joke. And it was, if you play the game and beat it X amount of times in a particular, or whatever you have to do for both Leon and Claire, you can unlock Akuma.
I tried so many times.
So did we. My brother and I played
in a Resident Evil game.
Yes, and they had the screenshots.
They showed everything. It looked
legit. It looked legit as hell. And then you get the following issue, and April Fool's. I was livid. I'm like, you want a spark of me distrusting journos? There you go. Like that was that moment.
It's all been downhill since.
I don't care if it was a joke. That was horrendous. That was unfair. but yeah, I mean, like that was just like one of those things that just adds to the like lore for the game for me too.
I mean, that's why I got so good at speedrunning. I'm like, I'm getting this character. I'm gonna
Yeah.
beat it as fast as I can. I'm gonna get good at this. I mean, shoot, like we thought it was real too because you could play as a hunk of tofu. You
Yeah.
play as
I was
Hunk,
just going to ask about that.
can
Which
play
one
as
was it that had
Hunk.
the tofu?
and then you can also play as Tofu.
Yeah,
So I
so
mean,
the
if you could
idea-
play as a thing of tofu, easily you could play as Akuma.
Yeah, it plays
Is-
right into what they've already they have unlockable characters. Why wouldn't Akuma be unlockable? It's a Capcom property after all.
Yeah.
It was the
Jerks.
tofu in RE2, or has
Yeah.
it been in multiple ones?
What's that?
Oh, I think they brought Tofu back in other properties for little gags.
He was
He-
in just like some like mercenary modes and things like that. But yeah, his main contribution in beginning was his tofu mode in as the fourth survivor in
Yeah, they
Okay.
did bring it back in a remake too, and I also saw recently they made a rubber ducky version of Tofu, so I had to buy it. It was on sale for $5, and I was like, "Oh hell yeah, let's do it."
Well,
Yeah,
and
you're
then
showing me that.
what's funny
Okay.
too is Resident Evil 2 B-side story will set up basically Jill for Resident Evil 3 because she makes a kind of shadowed cameo at the end of the game. She throws the player the rocket launcher to defeat Mr. X. Kind of like harkening back to Resident Evil 1.
and then
And Resident Evil 4.
Oh, I guess yeah. It's been a while since
Oh.
I've played 4.
if you ever get a chance and you have the old RE2 on PC, somebody made an Akuma mod for it, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
That's another thing. Like I learned recently, there's still an active modding community for
big time.
all those classic Resident Evil games. So that's like it sent me kind of this weird thing of like, oh, I gotta check a lot of these out now.
Play an RE2 randomizer and your brain will explode, especially for someone like me that knows where everything's at. I'm like, oh, no, this is here. You grab it out, you're like, oh crap. I have to go. I have to go all this. I don't do that. I do this, and this. And
I gotta
then-
re-strategize
yeah.
here.
Yep. And then you walk into a room and then there's, it's supposed to be 3 zombies, and next there's 3 lickers just staring at you. You're like, all right,
Peace out.
time to do my quick walk so you don't hear me,
Yeah.
hear me walking on the thing. You just do the little steps so you don't make a noise.
Yep. Fracture just wants to naked Leon mod. That's what he wants.
You don't have to give away all my secrets.
I got to give away all your secrets. You must be as naked as that Leon mod.
All right, fine.
Shoot, not Claire. Ada gets him close enough to that. That's why they go to the black screen and you hear just unzip, and then he wakes up and just has the bandage over his chest.
Oh, that's oh boy.
Leon, you passed out and Ada took care of you. Did she take care of you?
Take care of you, you say. Wink.
Mhm.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
So you want me to take care of her?
And then also the one thing that people don't really talk about when it comes to RE2 is
You
Uh-oh.
muted. Your
muted.
mic died.
Mute
Uh,
yourself.
how messed up William Birkin is to want to get his daughter
Yes.
impregnated because that's the only thing you think of as a monster. It's like, what?
Yeah, that was a bit weird. That was kind of my introduction to weird Japanese stuff.
That was your weird introduction, huh?
Yeah, well, one of them.
All right. So I guess that'll leave it to me to wrap up our number 3s. And so for me, this is another franchise, but in this case, the first one much more fits than the second one, although the second one does have its moments. But that is Half-Life. The-
Half-Life.
Half-Life.
Yeah.
Huh.
So the first one is especially like after the incident happens at the beginning of the game, and you've got your introduction to the head crab zombies, and the people are still alive, but they're being controlled by the head crabs. You can actually hear them mumbling through the head crab because they're alive,
yeah.
experiencing what's going on, but they have no control of their body because the head crab is controlling them. That was freaking creepy. 2 wasn't creepy, spooky, except for Ravenholm.
I was gonna say Ravenholm was pretty much
Ravenholm was
takes the
very.
cake.
That's probably the scariest part of both games, but I'd say that overall, the first one had a lot more spookiness to it than the second one, especially at the end of the first one. You go to Zen, it's very, very weird. You got this giant-headed, creepy baby monster as the final boss.
It is very alien. Like it is just such an alien world that this is nothing that you would actually like potentially comprehend. It is just so foreign and so bizarre and so out there. I get what you're saying. Okay. I never would have thought of Half-Life 1 at least for being spooky, but when you pointed out like the head crab thing, especially because then I remember, oh yeah, there were some scenes where like you walk into one of the office rooms and there's a guy being taken over and the lights flashing on him and it's setting up that whole thing.
Yep. Yeah, when you're, the first part of the game, when you're, still, in the complex and a lot of the scientists and stuff have been taken over by head crab, become head crab zombies out, powers out here and there, and head crabs are falling out of the ceiling and scaring. It's like, oh crap. So I remember being spooked by that a lot. But yeah, none of that, like, they took that to the next level in that one level in Half-Life 2, Ravenholm. That was
that was really cool.
Part.
And all you're armed with is the gravity gun. So you can kind of, for one, you can kind of have some fun in there, especially, but that's like only once you know the mechanics of the gravity gun and what kind of fun you can have in there. But initially, you're just kind of walking through, you're like, I just been given this weird thing. I don't know how to use it. I'm in this weird place. I don't know what the hell's going on. This is like I just walked into a dang horror movie. I just want to go, please. Give me back my armament of weapons, please.
Yeah, because Ravenholm was basically right after you get the gravity gun, isn't it?
Yes, because the Combine attack the rebel base, the place that you get to. And like I said, you've been disarmed. All your weapons are gone. All you are armed with is the gravity gun. And like Alex is trying to warn you about Ravenholm, but like it is because everything's just coming down.
The level is called "We Don't Go to Ravenholm."
Yeah, it's exactly that. This is like, oh no. And when you first step into it too, you're like, oh, this is what we're doing. This is why. Oh my god.
Yeah, and that level introduces the there's like 2 new head crab zombies. There's the one that like is like a hunchback and he's got a bunch of them on him.
And he has like the poisonous head crabs and everything.
And the poison head crabs and the fast zombie head crabs. Those things
the ones that are kind of like
skeletons.
Talk about getting close to like xenomorph territory. Those things are just kind of like the dog alien from Alien 3. Just running around all across the buildings, coming after you one way or another, and you're just once you finally, I think, get the shotgun by the priest, you're like, oh, finally,
Father Grigori, thank you.
Yeah, Father Grigori. Yeah, it's like, oh, finally, I got something. Let's go. But even then, you're still you're trying to. It's like then it turns into like Resident Evil because then you're trying to conserve ammo and get through. So you're switching between your gravity gun, maybe your crowbar, and shotgunning what you can for what you just can't mop up quickly enough. You try and the good thing is that there's so many explosive barrels.
Yeah,
but
and
again,
the traps
are hilarious, especially
you drop the car on them or
drop the car
blades.
Yeah, I was thinking of the spinning blade. Like you get under there, you hit the button, and you just like hang out underneath that spinning blade. They just walk towards you, get cut in half, and everything. It's great.
Use the gravity gun with the saw blades to saw them in half.
Exactly. But like, there's this. So it's still kind of a creepy spot of that game for sure, and a little bit with the antlions later on. And you're trying to stay off the ground because then you just like, if you ever watched Tremors when you were young, it's like, oh my god, I'm re-experiencing this. I can't wait. The creatures that'll come after me until you get like the little pouch for the antlions to kind of
after you defeat the
antlion
queen or whatever, you get the pheromones and then you can control the antlions. I love that level.
That was fun.
But one of the worst parts of the Ravenholm level is I think you're on top of a roof and you have to like hold out there for a couple of minutes.
You're waiting for Father Grigori to send a little carriage across the way.
That's right.
So he can pick you up and bring you across.
And there's a couple of these like rain gutters on each side of the building, and they start shaking to indicate that there's zombies climbing them. You're just like, there's like 3 or 4 of them. And you're like, all right, which one's coming up first? And just
exactly.
Yeah,
it's good. It's some good stuff.
So, but yeah, so definitely some good spooks in the Half-Life games.
Yes, I like it. I didn't even consider Half-Life. That's a good one.
So, all right. That will bring us into our number 2s. 205 20. So, all right. Carl, you want to kick off for number 2s?
My number 2 is a game I actually just played recently, and I have a full playthrough on my YouTube channel. I'm going to go with Slay the Princess as my number 2 horror game out there.
Oh, okay.
We've
been talking about this game a bit lately.
I'm a guy who likes all types of games, obviously, as I put it out there. I don't care who makes it, don't care what it's about. If it's interesting, if it's cool, if it's fun, I want to try it, I want to play it, I want to experience it. And I've heard a lot of good things from my friend, his name is Felix, who plays a lot of these indie games. He's more of that type of guy, and he was giving off a list a while back. This game came out last year, and he said, check out this game, Slay the Princess. It looks pretty good. So I watched the trailer for it, and the opening trailer is basically just you going downstairs into this basement, and then you're like told, oh, you got to kill this princess. And in the trailer, the princess just stabs you to death, and like she's very like saying like I'm sorry, and she just keeps stabbing you. She goes, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know mean to do this, and I'm like, all right, I'm sold. So it's a supernatural game, so I decided to check it out. And you start playing this game, and it's basically the best way I could say it is like it's a roguelike visual novel. So you have to do different runs, and each run you do basically resets like the playthrough. So how this game kind of works is you go downstairs into this like say for example you go into this cabin, you grab a knife, you go downstairs, and then you kill the princess, or you try to kill the princess. And depending on what your actions do, it resets. You go back to the beginning, and you get new voices in your head that kind of also help you dictate how the story goes. So some of the voices are you get smitten with the princess, you're a coward with the princess, you are you feel cheated. So like you got this voice in your head that's like constantly complaining that like, why can't we beat her? This is nonsense. We're getting cheated. We'll get her next time, or something like that. And you get this like crazy back and forth with like this omnipotent character called the narrator, who kind of pushes your story along as you're playing it. And then it is just so wildly crazy. It has like 97 Steam achievements last time I checked, because that's how many different runs you can do. And when you do a certain run, they don't allow you to redo the path. So they make sure that it constantly keeps, you can't keep doing the same decisions over and over and over again. They change it up. And just to kind of put this out there, like my first run, I didn't kill the princess right away, and then she kills me, and then I come back and I start the whole run again. And then this time she's like this omnipotent god being telling me to kneel, and you know, I just start stabbing myself and everything else because she's like telling me just to stab myself. It is so crazy and wild. And then like eventually I kill her, and then the run starts over one more time because we both took each other out. And then you go back downstairs, and she is like a completely different like demon now. So she went from like an omnipotent god being to like a skinless, you know, like heart exposed demon. And she's just like, what have you done to me? And it's just like over the top crazy. I was hooked. That was just one run through. I don't want to spoil too much more of this one, but it's on my YouTube if you want to watch it, get a gauge for it. But this game is just awesome. It's just well written. It's funny. It's crazy. It's over the top. I am always constantly looking back to it, and the ending blew my mind, just like how over the top insane it was. So, highly recommend this game a lot for a visual novel game as what it is. It's seriously a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, just looking at it, I mean, if anybody cares with ratings in chat or anything like that, it's definitely got a 90 on Metacritic, and then also on Steam there is a demo. So if you wanted to give yourself a try on it, there is a demo to try it out first before you buy it.
And
Good
also
to
on
know.
top of that too, is also coming to consoles on October 24th.
Hmm.
All the consoles, Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch.
Nice. And Forking Around is here. What's up, Forking Around? Good to see you tonight, buddy. Hope you're doing well. So cool. Oh, and dude is over on Rumble saying, I'm coming in late. If Doom 3 isn't anywhere on this list, I'm opening a portal to hell.
Well,
No one has mentioned Doom 3.
I don't know about anybody
yet.
else, but
It's not my number one.
you're actually opening a portal to hell on me. Spoiler.
I live in Illinois, so I already live in hell.
Eh, I escaped hell. I got out of California for a reason.
Yeah, I'm still here.
You brave soldier, you.
So, all right. I'll slay the princess for Carl's number 2. All right. You know what? I think I'll go next with my number 2 because I know that this series of games is I know Carl's a big fan of, but I think we have different favorites in this franchise, and that is the Remedy games. And you would think that my answer would be Alan Wake, which hopefully I'm not spoiling you, Carl. My apologies if I am, but
You're not.
okay. But yeah, I like the Remedy games. I've not played Alan Wake because, spooky isn't really my thing. But my favorite Remedy game, and it is still very spooky, probably not as much as Alan Wake, but I really, really enjoyed this game, was Control. I played it probably in like 2019. I got the Ultimate Edition. I played the Xbox One version, and it also comes with the Series X version. I've not played the Series X version, so I'm very much looking forward to playing through it again because that was a great game. And yeah, it's very eerie. From the moment the game gets going, it's like, what the heck is going on here? It's very, it kind of makes your skin crawl. So this creepy stuff going on, this weird building. It's like, does it exist in actual time and space? And you get all sorts of cool powers. It's very Metroidvania-esque. Yeah, I love Control. I'm looking forward to playing it again. Great game. If anyone hasn't played Control, I definitely recommend it. Yeah.
Yes, Control was my favorite game the year it came out. I got it for PlayStation. I got it for Xbox because I'm a big Remedy fan. I absolutely love the Old House is what it's called, Neo.
The Old House, that's right.
Yeah, and it's just like very over the top, very Twin Peaks, very sci-fi-ish. Like it's kind of like alternate universes, like supernatural stuff and monsters all in the same place. You fight these like giant eyeball creatures that pop out of nowhere. Like it's basically like what if X-Files was done kind of like a more like current day X-Files, but like also has like way more of a supernatural element. So like they can't even have modern technology inside of the Old House because like whatever like paranormal stuff they're working with could like escape out through it. So like everyone's using old computers from like the 1980s. They have to do everything with like rotary telephones and everything else like that. It is even the device they use to fight off the big enemy called the Hiss is all. It looks like someone just took apart a rotary phone and mixed it with like a record player to just stop like them from being taken over.
Oh yeah, the thing that those devices that they wear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's you have very innocuous items that you'd find around your house are like not really possessed, but like the spirit of these like monster creatures live inside of them. Like there's this one like side mission. I'm pretty sure it's completely optional. You come across this guy who's just in this room staring at a fridge because if he blinks or looks away,
yeah.
the fridge will kill him. And you're like, He's like, I was supposed to be relieved a couple hours ago after my 8-hour shift and no one came. It's because the other guy, got possessed or died or whatever. And you're like, all right, I'll come back. And you come back and then you turn around, all of a sudden he's gone. And then you go in and fight the monster inside the fridge. And it's like one of the hardest bosses in the game, I think.
Yeah.
It's just, and there's this whole area. It's like a vault of some kind. It has like, one of the rooms has a fridge. Another one has like a rubber ducky. Another one has like an umbrella. There's just these very mundane items that have like these weird like creature spirit things living inside them. It's very, very, very eerie. And it was just a really great game. I'm looking forward to playing through it again at some point.
Yeah, like another thing too is like there's a room where it's like starts duplicated items for no reason. So it's like clocks. And you just go into this like one part of the old house. And it's just rooms filled with clocks, like old school clocks, and they're like, "What's going on here?" You know?
Yeah. Oh, and the ashtray maze, which is this part that's right in the middle of the game, for some reason, and I didn't realize this the first time I went through it, but you're going through this like weird, like everything is moving while you're going through it, almost like I forget what it's called, but those like paintings of like a staircase that like infinite staircase that like goes to nowhere.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
There's a term for it, and
Yeah.
it basically embodies that, and like things are like morphing into shapes that like shouldn't be able to exist. And the music kicks in during this part, and it's freaking awesome. And in the game, or I should say in the franchise, because all the Remedy games are connected and all take place in the same universe. In the Remedy universe, there's a band called the Old Gods of Asgard, and they're really awesome. And the song kicks in, and in the game, Jess, right? That's her name?
Yeah, Jess.
Jess I didn't notice this the first time, but she actually puts on headphones for this part, and that's why this music kicks in when most of the game is very quiet. And this like awesome rock song comes on, and you're like mowing down these enemies as like the walls are shifting and stuff. It was just a freaking awesome little segment. And the Old Gods of Asgard is actually like there's an actual real world band that plays the music, and it's Carl, do you remember the name of the band? I just blanked on it.
I forget what the name of the band is.
It's Poetic or something. Let me pull it up. Old Gods of Asgard. Because I found it, because earlier in the game there's this room where you walk into and there's just a speaker playing music. I'm like, God, this song is awesome. And I'm listening to it. I'm like, this voice sounds really familiar. And I went and looked it up, and I was like, it is the band that I was thinking of, because I love this band. I haven't listened to them in a while, but it's Poets of the Fall is the real life band. And I haven't listened to them in a while, but I have a playlist of them that I used to listen to a lot. And when I heard the song, I'm like, that sounds a lot like Poets of the Fall. And I looked it up. I'm like, it is Poets of the Fall. So the real world band, Poets of the Fall, plays the band Old Gods of Asgard in the Remedy universe. And when I was looking into it, and Poets of the Fall, for some reason, is close friends with the people at Remedy. And so that's why they're the band in the game. And they're a pretty cool rock band. So if you ever want, I would recommend giving Poets of the Fall a listen, because they're pretty good.
Yeah, Control is also a very aggressive game. So like you have to play very aggressively in Control. It's not really one of those. It is a third-person shooter, but it's not like a cover shooter. Like you don't get to do cover. It's basically run and gun at its finest.
Heck, one of your powers is levitate, and you go and fly up into the, you can basically fly.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use basically force powers to like throw stuff at people. It's great.
Basically, yeah, I was going to say it's force powers. You grab rocks, you throw them. You just like are throwing rocks at bosses and shooting backwards, and your gun is technically like this living object out of itself too, because in the game too, there's this omnificent. There we go. Omnificent board that watches over you. You know, they're not even
omniscient.
Omniscient. There we go.
All knowing, right?
Yes. Omniscient. And they basically make you the director, and they just give you this gun, and the gun morphs into whatever you need it to be.
Yeah, it like transforms. It's pretty cool. It's got a mode for like pistol mode, like machine gun mode, shotgun mode. It's got all these different modes, and you can level them up. It's a really cool game.
Does the Ultimate Edition have separate achievement list, or is it all combined?
The achievement list is the exact same. It's just it doesn't have any DLC. The DLC is all baked into the game. And there is a Windows version as well. And the I believe all 3 versions are on Game Pass. I know the Xbox One and Windows version are. I'm not 100% sure about the Ultimate Edition.
The Ultimate Edition I saw was on there, so I think that's
Okay.
weird that they have both versions. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, you can get the achievements for it 3 times because it's got 3 separate stacks.
So, like I said, so the Ultimate Edition does have separate achievements.
Oh yes, it has its own like a separate achievement list, so you can get the achievements for it for the Xbox One version, the Ultimate Edition, and the Windows version.
Okay.
It's just the Windows version and the Xbox One version have DLC, but the Ultimate Edition has the DLC built into the game, but it's still
Okay.
the same set of achievements.
Yeah, that's just what I was wondering.
Okay. Shoot, there was one. Oh, the one other thing I was going to say is that there's one final boss at the end of the game that's an optional boss, but you need it for an achievement. Dr. Tomasi is like that boss is really freaking hard. I had to for the first time in the game, I had to go and adjust the difficulty sliders and stuff in order to beat that boss. Because I fought him like 20 times. Like, how the heck is it possible to beat this guy? But yeah, great game. I definitely recommend Control, and it's on Game Pass. So that leaves us with Jason and Filter. Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
I can go. Oh, Filter, you can go.
So like I was speaking of kind of a lightning in a bottle sort of game earlier, besides Alien Isolation and stuff. This game definitely, to me at least, hits that mark. I know they've been trying to make a sequel to it, but it just hasn't been. Last I knew, they were butchering it and putting it out in segments almost for different side games. But and I've been playing it recently on stream. It's Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines.
Oh, the first
And
one.
Yeah, so it's kind of a funny thing too, considering that it's based off of a tabletop RPG. But they do a really, really good job of integrating the world, the mythos, and like it is first picking. You start out getting to pick one of the different vampire clans, and then it comes with an assortment of powers and stuff like that. And they all got their quirks. They've all got their little eccentricities and stuff like that. It's kind of become like known to like if you want to play through the game as one of any of the clans besides either Malkavian or Nosferatu. Nosferatu is playing the game on a completely difficult mode because they are just they are disfigured. Basically, they are just very hideous looking vampires to play as. So like stealth is absolutely key, and that's kind of the other part of it. Is like you aren't meant to be caught by human society whatsoever. They have what they call the masquerade. You're supposed to uphold it. And then also the Malkavians. The Malkavians are basically insane. But throughout the game, if you're playing as them and you choose your dialogue options, they have hints and little tidbits that lead to what happens at the end of the game. So they're kind of cool, but it's kind of the idea, play that class last once you've already gotten through the main story. But this is the thing, like here you are, and like myself, I picked the class called the Tremere. They're basically vampire magicians or vampire sorcerers because they use the blood magic and stuff. They use blood to attack other people with it. It's really cool, especially when you get one of the maximum, the blood boil, and you can just explode people by using the blood inside them and poof, making them turn into blood dust. But it's this thing is that you are playing, yes, as like these crazy vampires with powers, but the game, for one, just has such a. You are in California. You are in basically South. You were in Santa Monica and LA and stuff like that, and you start out in Santa Monica, and of course, it's like constantly rainy. You're of course playing it. It's always at night, but everything is just so creepy, so dirty, so dingy. It just again is just like adding to this like what kind of world you're in. You're not in a nice clean world or anything like that. It is just very grimy, very dirty, and very just like there's almost danger around each corner that there can be. But you get thrown into some missions that normally, like, you know, again, like I said, you're a vampire. You got powers, you're feeling good, you're feeling kick ass and everything, right? But no, you get thrown into certain situations like this one kind of lead vampire sends you off to this creepy ass mansion to retrieve a relic from there, basically, a locket. And what basically it is if it's like it's kind of like seeing hints and flashes of The Shining of a husband going insane and killing his wife, but you go through the mansion, and this is also like where jump scares were used rather effectively, because as you kind of go through certain sections of the place, the spirits, the angry spirit of the father attacks you through, like, you know, either throwing things at you, erupting certain rooms of chaos, and everything. But then you see the specter of the wife running around, and it's all played through these darkened hallways as you're trying. And I mean, it's really set up perfectly to me to going through the manor, and just you're also finding like the tabloid headlines of the death being carried out. One body found, next body found, children, you know, then a murder suicide. It all leads up to it, and then it's just like I said, this the entity that is trying to also kill you excuse me, as you're trying to make your way through this place. I just think it's just such a great setup for it, because then even if you get through that, you got other places that you go on beyond the game that get into like some more just dark. And it's all because I forgot what they called it specifically for this whole like world, besides like Vampires Masquerade. There's, I think, Secret World. Not that. That's not an MMO. But like you start going to other places that just have their extra elements of creepy, of just these, especially later, like almost like you pretty much run into people that basically put on like a snuff film at a point. It's like you don't see it naturally, but like you just get you collect all the information about this group, and then the monsters that come from it is just also just the horrificness to it. All the while, even though, like I say, you're playing like a pretty kick-ass, you could have a pretty powerful character built, but you're like traversing through these places, and you want nothing more than just to get through as quickly as possible and not just get too freaked out by some of it. And especially when you're going, also when you're going through again, another manor, which is just basically like a Halloween fun house, because you have things like, you know, illusionary mirrors that warp kind of distort the way you look at everything. It kind of again, like weird, like ways of like a mirror showing one thing, you interact with the environment, and then it flips to another, and you can actually walk through the mirror, going to the other parts of the rooms. There's an insane asylum inside there. There's a lot going on in the game, and I'm not doing it justice through my explanation, but the thing was too is that this game initially is probably amazing that it even got it released, because the game was broken as all unholy hell. It was built in the Source engine, which could be very hard for some people to work with. But thanks to some dedicated modders out there, we have unofficial patches that have helped like restore content, cleaned up the game, made it much more accessible and playable. At the time, yes, there were areas where like it was basically like called it was a hard stop, game crash, or like game you could not progress. So thankfully, with things like that, and if you played certain times, yes, you could get through those areas depending on what you did, maybe a restart or something. You know, games can be buggy, but this one in particular. But it was just it has such a charm to it because again, there's everything else going on inside the world too, from the extra little side quests that you can pick up. Again, I'm always a freak about this, but like it adds to the character of the levels through the music. I love the radio station, Late Night with Deb. There's some pretty hilarious moments that I've even grabbed because what's really cool too is they make it really easily and accessible through the game files, and you can just pull those music files of the radio station, and I've thrown them into like when I've played GTA 5, so I'll have them play as they come up and everything. So there's little elements like that, and again like there's also like the TV news broadcaster. Again, if you're playing as a Malkavian, you'll actually get to interact with that guy a little bit. So they have even like different. So it really encourages the idea too of extra playthroughs because you can get like different interactions with however it is you're trying to play it, and you do have some dialogue options. It is still very linear in the progression because you got it. It's just leading you towards their end goal. But you get to have some fun along the way. And like I said, there's just some creepy, again, ambiance, the setting, the way the dark shadows will play with your mind and everything. So it definitely has been one of those games. I still love playing through it. The mansion is always like like I said, it just was so well put together. And I had fun streaming it, going through it recently. So if you haven't, definitely check it out.
That's a bit of an older game, right?
A bit. I was, I think, early 2000s.
Yeah, as I say, early, yeah. If not late 90s, early 2000s. I remember it was a pretty big game back when it came out.
Let's see here. 2004 initial release date. Troika Games.
A little newer than I thought. I was thinking it was like in the 90s.
My wife played a Vampire Masquerade game for the Switch. I don't know which one it was.
Yeah, they've had some other ones too, and they're not, like I said, like the with them trying to make a sequel, they kind of started like kind of like what Kojimbo did with Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain. He then had the other section, Ground Zero, as kind of like that release spot. That's kind of what they've done with the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, unfortunately. And it's just been marred in kind of development hell, unfortunately. But like I said, that's the thing. Like the original game has this kind of charm, even in some of the jank and weirdness of the gameplay. But the storyline and everything is really just what uplifts the game, and all the different players that are the NPCs that you deal with. They all got their stake, and no pun intended, their own stake in the game, of how they're trying to almost manipulate you to how to manipulate you to get you to doing certain things, and as you're just trying to make your own decisions. Also, like again, killer soundtrack. That you do have. The only thing that kind of sucks is some of the licensed music, but even some of that is pretty badass. So yeah, it definitely has been one of my favorites, especially for this time of year.
All right. Yeah, I know a lot of people. I've heard that name a lot. Like I said, I don't know almost anything about that franchise. But, they announced one a couple years ago, and I think it's been in development hell.
Yep, it has been. Unfortunately,
Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, right?
2, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, one of the longest freaking video game titles.
Right, yeah, they've got a little, and they've had like a bunch of different other ones. But yeah, like if you're gonna do it, like I'd probably say even like grab the GOG version, and because it already comes with the unofficial patch part of the installer, so it kind of saves you some time on that front. But you might want to get the updated versions of the unofficial patch, because that'll help add in some extra things here and there and just clean up anything else. But
okay,
I'll play it as the devs intended. Broken.
There you go. I've done that. That's how I played the game originally.
Fractured thinks he's a purist. I'm a real purist.
Yeah, the ultimate purist right there, playing that broken game. Play it.
No mods, nothing.
I understand that. I get that.
All right, Jason, why don't you complete our number twos?
All right, so my number 2 is going to be cheating in a way, and the reason why is because the original and the remake both have their spot for this. If lighting and everything like that, the way we can see, that was back when the game originally came out. It would be the thing. I do like kind of big how they made the Ishimura as well, but my number 2 is Dead Space.
Oh, I had figured that'd be on someone's list.
Once he said
Yeah.
Ishimura, I knew what he was saying.
Yeah, that ship being able to do everything and anything you wanted to do it instead of back when it originally came out, where it was like, oh, here's each of your levels by going on there and restarting everything up. Now on the remake, you have everything to do, and with all the lighting and with how terrifying all the monsters are, I mean, you're pretty much combining the Thing and Alien all in one, which I mean, that's just absolutely terrifying to begin with. So I mean, yeah, it's hard not to bring the game up and just think of like all the areas of jumping with all the anti-gravity scenes where you have no oxygen and you have to get to one spot and do a puzzle, and if you don't do it, you're dead because you can't breathe. Obviously, all the monsters having to take out each individual limb to take them out. Same thing with all the bosses. Trying to figure out how you're using not weapons but tools as your weapons, and you just realize excuse me. But anyway, tools are your weapons instead of just be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go find a pistol. Now you're using your plasma cutter because you're not a soldier. You work on the ship. You're not gonna get a shotgun. You're gonna get a line cutter. You're gonna get a ripper, which is just magnets holding a saw blade, and you're gonna cut things up to do things that way. So I mean, just the little things that they do, it's like, oh, that's clever. You're right. I'm not supposed to be this be all end all soldier. I'm just using what I have to get around, kind of like an alien, and all that kind of stuff to figure out how I can survive this crazy thing that just happened to the ship.
So I have Dead Space on my backlog. If I was only going to play one, being the classic or the remake, which would you suggest?
All right. The second, the remake's atmosphere trumps the first one, even though that's the same, just because of like lighting. But again, I've played more of the original than I have of the remake, just because I had more time, I think, back then. I don't think you'd go wrong either. That's why, for me, I just put Dead Space as in general, because both of them are great for what they are. If you want something that's more of a looker, play the remake. If you want something that's just like, I don't care, I just want to play the game, play the original. And again, like the original has more of a level by level kind of situation. So you're like, okay, cool, I finished with kind of like level 1. Now I'm going to go to level 2, so you can kind of feel where you are in the game. Where the remake, it feels like you just have this gigantic game that you're going through. So it depends on how you want to feel about that too.
Yeah, I posed the same question to Mark on Party Chat a while back because I was curious. Because I've decided that I'm going to play when I do play through the trilogy, I'm going to play through starting with the remake.
Yeah,
I've heard that they made a lot of quality of life improvements, and you can go back and forth, and it's basically like a full spaceship rather than like locked off from the previous level. So
Yep.
They're scary, Neo. You gotta wear your adult diapers.
yeah, I know. So I was looking at so far of the franchises that I put on the thumbnail. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 6 franchises that I put on the thumbnail have been covered so far. So
Kind of curious. What did you put on a thumbnail? I thought it was all monsters when I looked at it.
I did. Yeah, various monsters. So I got necromorphs on there. I've got the xenomorph. I've got
got Pyramid
Nemesis,
Head.
Pyramid Head, Michael Myers, and Alma from Fear. So, yeah, because I don't know which game, like, because my knowledge of the Resident Evil franchise is from the movies, which I know is not very accurate to the games.
No.
But I know Nemesis showed up in the second Resident Evil movie. Which game
Stars.
was he in?
3.
Yeah,
Three.
3.
Okay. So yeah, not exactly the game, but the franchise has been brought up on the list so far. So, all right. So, yeah, Dead Space. I knew that had to be on here somewhere because I know that's a very popular one. And like I said, sci-fi horror I'm more okay with. So that's on a bunch of people like, dude, you got to play it. So it's on my backlog. I will play it at some point. And dude is saying that he has the completion for Dead Space on 360. So
Woo!
nice. Because I think in order to get the completion, you have to beat it on the hardest difficulty, which I don't. Well, I looked at the achievements for the remake because I don't plan on doing the original one. But I think a lot of the achievements are very similar. So I think even on the remake, you have to beat it on the hardest difficulty, which I don't know if I'm going to do, but we'll see once I play it.
To be honest with you, like both, you can't go wrong either way. But
Yep.
it is a game I also recommend you play with surround sound on, because the only reason I gotta say this is you can play it without it, and once you put it on, like just put your headphones on, you hear like babies crying, crazy screaming, all that stuff. Like the first time I played it on my old crappy TV when I was younger, and it was fun. I loved it. I was not really scared, but I was like, oh wow, that's crazy. But then I went over to my buddy's house, and he has like the surround sound that's like behind you, and like the audio mixing that they put into that game, it's like little baby crying in the corner. I'm like, what the hell's going on around here? It's just it is so great. And I liked the first 2 games. I never played the third one because everyone tells me that one was bad, and I didn't get it until just recently.
Snapple Rai is back. Good to see you again, Snapple Rai. He's saying Dead Space fun franchise. Sad it went downhill to the third one, which is what I've heard, but I have a feeling that the third one will probably be my favorite because it's the least scary.
Anime is also pretty good too. The anime movie
Dead
that
Space
did.
anime.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, anime is pretty good. Okay. The Dead Space anime. All right.
Yeah.
Took me a second to put those 2 dots together.
If you want to start with that and then go to the games, that's also good because it's like a prequel.
Okay. Yeah, and I know speaking of Dead Space 3, I don't think this was in the first 2, but I know Dead Space 3 has a co-op mode. And
It does.
one thing that it is a pretty cool concept is that to play off that whole spooky ambiance of the game is that one player will see things that the other one doesn't, which was pretty cool. So like someone's like freaking out shooting at something, and the other guy's like, "What are you shooting at?" And it's like it's not actually there. So it's like that's a pretty cool idea. Snapper is saying, yeah, EA tried to shoehorn in a lot of microtransaction, unneeded multiplayer in it, from what I hear. So, and they left it on a cliffhanger, from what I hear as well. So we'll never actually get unless the Dead Space remake did really good, so they may remake the whole franchise.
So
maybe.
What I've heard, it did.
Maybe they'll get a Dead Space 4. I know a lot
of people. What I heard, it did good, but it didn't do good enough for the money that they thought they were going to bring in. So I think they put that kind of back on the back burners again for a little bit because it was supposed to do this amount and it just didn't get there. And yeah, unfortunately, one of those things.
I mean, they put it on deep sale on Xbox for like $7, like a while back. So like, yeah, they're just trying to get any money they can now.
And since it's EA, it's also on Game Pass Ultimate via EA Play. So, all right. Well, before we get into our number ones, as is customary, we will go over our honorable mentions. So I'll go ahead and kick us off with our honorable mentions. And it was perfect timing that Snapple Rai just came back because I didn't notice it until just a couple minutes ago. But he sent me a tip because I forgot to have it pulled up. And because I don't have notifications set up on panel streams, I only have on my solo gaming stream. So I was like, hey, I wonder if I want to go check and make sure I didn't miss anything. And there was. He sent me a tip, so I appreciate it, Snapple Rai. Thank you. And I didn't have this on my honorable mentions until something that Filter said earlier. And I added it to my honorable mentions. And then Snapple Rai came in after that with this tip and said, I'd like to add Subnautica as a spooky game because the deep sea is spooky to me. And the reason why I did not have that on my honorable mentions is because I don't think of it as a spooky game, but there are so many people who are terrified of this game because of the deep ocean. And there's actually a term for it, like the actual fear of it. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but I believe it's thalassophobia. And that's basically the fear of deep water. And a lot of people are terrified of playing Subnautica because of that. And I played it so much that I don't fear that game at all anymore. Although it's because I know where all the Reapers are and stuff. But when they are nearby, I do keep an eye on them. But the first time playing through that game absolutely was spooky. I just didn't think of it because I've played it so many times. It's not really spooky to me anymore. But absolutely, it's on my honorable mentions. It would arguably be my number one. I just don't think of it. It's not a spooky game, but it has some spooky aspects to it. So that's why it's not actually on my top 5 list. But I'm glad that you mentioned that Snapple Rai, because Subnautica I love that game. It's almost always in my quick resume, and I'll play it for 20 minutes here or there because I just love that game so much. So I'm glad that you mentioned that as well. Yeah, the rest of my honorable mentions are all kind of like that, where they're not exactly spooky games, but they have a spookiness to them. And so another one is Super Metroid, or basically just the Metroid franchise in general. It's basically inspired by Alien. A lot of the names and stuff come from Alien, like Ridley, the character, or the enemy is because of Ridley Scott. One of the things I was going to say while Filter was talking about Alien Isolation the other day, earlier, was I had an idea for an Alien Isolation game, and it's Zero Suit Samus without any of her abilities surviving while Ridley is hunting her down in a space station.
Ooh.
That would be pretty cool game. I would totally be down for that. Make it a survival horror Metroid game, and whether you make it third person or first person, probably be scarier in first person, but I was like, that'd be a really good pitch for a spooky Metroid video game.
You can honestly do that and still have her suit, because you can obviously don't give her the missiles because she's got to get her suit anyway, but lose everything. But just give her a morph ball so she can kind of go up into tunnels. And there's certain puzzles you have to do to kind of go around as Ridley's looking for you. Just oh crap, I got to go into morph ball, do this, and all that kind of stuff.
So yeah, it was just a random idea that popped in my head the other day. I'm like, that would be pretty cool. Or you could maybe even make that a mod of Alien Isolation, make it a Metroid Zero Mission, or not Zero Mission, but Metroid, and just mod it so that the xenomorph is Ridley. Another one is what I would say is the spookiest of the Zelda games, and that is Majora's Mask. Definitely has a darker tone to it than all the other Zeldas.
Yeah.
Although Ocarina of Time definitely got its spooky parts, like the Shadow Temple under the well. I mean, those creeped me out when I was a kid. I did not want to go and play those sections because that was creepy. But I would say overall, those sections are probably scarier than anything in Majora's Mask. But Majora's Mask just had an overall darker tone to it, so that's why I say Majora's Mask.
Forest Temple 2 could be kind of creepy.
Yeah. Are you talking about the Forest Temple in Ocarina of Time, or
in Ocarina of Time? When you're the adult Link and everything going through it, there's this. It is another kind of going through a Halloween fun house, as you're also trying to warp the aspects of the different places and get through it, and you got that creepy hand that'll if it attaches to you, it will warp you to the beginning of the area.
Oh, those things are freaking annoying. I hate those.
Yeah.
The wall, what are they, ceiling masters? Because the floor masters just run around on the ground.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely I could see that for the Forest Temple as well. And then another one that's not a spooky game, but it is steeped in spooky lore with vampires and werewolves and stuff. And was my introduction to the Castlevania franchise, and that was Lords of Shadow, because I love hack and slashes, and they came out with a Castlevania hack and slash. I'm like, sure, I'll give it a try, and I really like that game. And it's on I want to go through and play it again, because I haven't played it in forever, and I'll probably play through it again before because I haven't played Lords of Shadow 2. I heard it wasn't anywhere near as good, but I do plan to play through it. But I want to play Lords of Shadow 1 again before I do, because that was a pretty good game. There's a couple things I had a couple gripes with, mainly in the DLC, but overall I thought that was a pretty great game. And dudes over on Rumble is saying that I played Doom 3 in pitch dark with surround sound. It was amazing. That was one thing I was going to ask you, Carl. For Dead Space, would you recommend no, that wasn't Carl, that was Jason. Would you recommend surround sound, or would you recommend headphones?
I mean, depending on what you want, but I mean, headphones, you're going to get a lot of just spatial audio to begin with. So, I mean, headphones are always going to be the best thing, but I mean, it just depends on if you want to wear headphones while you're playing the game, because you can do the same. You can get away with the same thing with like surround sound. But I mean, if you want like everything spatial, go with the headphones. But if you want to feel everything kind of spatial, go with just like surround sound. So, what do you feel comfortable with?
Okay. So, all right. So I did have that right the first time, because Dead Space was Jason's, but I think Carl was the one who was saying play it in surround sound, right?
Yeah.
So, and then my street has no street lights, and I have a basement. Metroid Isolation. That would be a pretty cool game. Outside the spiders, Twilight Princess doesn't have much in the way of spooks. Yeah. So, not that kind. Saporara is saying, ironically, I enjoyed Subnautica despite being fearful of it. Yep, I love it. It's one of my favorite games. I love that game. And the Redeads in Ocarina were freaking terrifying. Those scared the crap out of me as a kid. And then your Link is literally paralyzed with fear when they make eye contact. First time I felt disturbed thinking that they were the only villagers in Hyrule. So, all right. Who wants to go next with their honorable mentions?
I can do real quick. Like I said, my Alien Isolation was gonna be it was really close to be my number 5, so that's there. One that we have on our title, but Alma in Fear, that little child scaring the bejesus out of me climbing down that ladder as we were escaping the one scene. Hate her for that.
I've only played the demo of the first Fear because it came with the official Xbox magazine. I was like, nope, I'm good.
Yeah, she messes with you way too much, and you climb down a ladder in this one point, and you think you're safe, and next you know her face is right there. You're like, okay. Another one it's not really scary or anything like that, but it's just it's got more of the vibes and all that stuff. But Zombies Ate My Neighbors is always one of my favorite games. And then another one that was really close. It was competing for the 5th spot. Eternal Darkness.
Ooh,
okay,
good one.
Good one. I never played it, but I know about that game. How it totally
I've heard about
it. Your sanity. You have sanity meter, and the stuff starts going nuts if you don't keep your sanity up.
Silicon Knights.
Knights. Yep.
It almost comes to the point too where like you want to play the game with your sanity meter, like not completely super low because it's almost impossible, but you want to play with on the lower side just for them to mess with you because it adds a little bit more layers to the game.
Oh, something else that I heard about that game is there's a secret difficulty setting in that at the beginning of the game you pick some item. It's like red, blue, or green, and those aren't actually the difficulties, and there's nothing indicating that. So if you pick the wrong one, the game's gonna be way harder for you. I could be getting it mixed up with another game, but
no, you might be right. Yeah, no, I know you picked because each gem color or whatever, or each color has to do with something on that, and I know you mess with that. So yeah, each thing because there's a blue, there's a green, there's stuff like that. So yeah, you're not wrong on the game. I just didn't know that was the difficulty.
Yeah, I heard that each one of those, which one you pick, will determine how the game plays out, and if you accidentally pick the wrong one, the game will be unintentionally way more difficult. So if you do play it and it's too difficult, maybe go pick one of the other colors, or if you are planning to play it, make sure you know which gem does what first, just so if you wanted it in an easier time, or if you wanted to go straight into a harder game, you can know that ahead of time and which color you want to pick.
I never knew that.
Another cutesy one that I didn't even think of, and I didn't think I would like it at first, but my buddy got me to buy it on Xbox Live Arcade way back because he was a big fan of it, and once I actually got into it, I really enjoyed it. I still have one achievement that I need to go back and finish, but that is Plants vs. Zombies.
Mhm.
So, Filter, what are your honorable mentions?
Yeah, so my honorable mentions, and despite the claims, there are the occasional remake I do like. And that
Oh,
Lies.
it's the System Shock 1 remake, which I really did enjoy. They definitely like there if you play the original, at least for me, I didn't get quite the spooky vibes out of it. Uh but you play the remake and they definitely leaned in hard, especially thanks to the sequel. They leaned in more on the spook volume of it all. My one, I'd say, like a little complaint that I had initially was I didn't quite get to hear the soundtrack kind of like you used to. But and I would have liked the original to be kind of included, kind of like what Resident Evil 2 remake did, where they allowed you to select the original soundtrack. But I'd just have to say, like, they did such a fantastic job, even though it was originally mired in a lot of developmental troubles because it was a Kickstarter. I actually went in on it because I was really excited for it. They initially put out a Unity demo, and it was looking really impressive even back then. I'm like, oh my god, because like to me, I was like, all right, you guys have presented a demo of the first probably the first section of the game, and you're on the right path. Fast forward, they get their money, they start doing things, they get a little too their artistic side gets a little too big, and they decided they want to start expanding areas, adding this, adding that. Like, no, please don't. Well, you have to, all we're asking for is for you to remake the levels in the game, but in current day graphics and the gameplay mod, because and they released the system. Night Dive was the one behind it, and they released the System Shock Enhanced Edition, which modified the controls to be more for like WASD movement controls with the mouse and everything. So I was like, oh, okay, they've got some of the core mechanics built in, and like I said, I thought it was all working. It was a bunch of developmental bullshit. Thankfully, somebody cracked a whip somewhere down the line, and they got the game on course, and everything. And they brought back the original voice actress for Shodan and everything. And I played through it. I like I said, I bought in on it early. I got the GOG version, played it, loved it. I did it as a Rumble exclusive. It's still over there. You can check it out. But yes, despite popular opinion, there are the occasional remakes that do make it through my filter of excellence, and if it really makes it there, and I
they
felt
make it
that
through your fractured filter.
exactly.
But
So I thoroughly love the game. I got through it. I beat it. And so that's one. And speaking of Remedy games from earlier, I hadn't played the ones you guys were talking about other than Alan Wake, but like one that I would definitely put as like kind of an honorable mention would be Max Payne 1. Especially like when you're first being brought into the game, you're Max, you're coming home, you think, oh, hunky dory, and they set it up too, the American dream, the white picket fence, wife, kid, all of that stuff seeming good. He's gonna quit smoking. He goes home, and next thing he knows, his whole world is getting turned upside down immediately. And it's like set up like a horror scene too, because that's exactly what's basically happened. Some V-head junkies have broken in, killed his wife, kills his kid. You are left with cleaning up this is how it opens.
It's like spoilers.
But yeah, this is how it opens. This is what gets you into it. And then it's just Max who then goes full on. He's a undercover, and then throughout that game, he's tormented by what happened. He has these psychological dreams that occur where you're, constantly hearing the baby crying, but like setting up these weird platforming levels, but the whole atmosphere to it, just hearing the cries of his wife and everything and the child is just like, It's still, like, anytime I hear a kid crying in real life, my brain snaps to those sections of the games. I'm like, oh fuck, that was rough.
I've heard those are pretty creepy.
They are. And also Jack Lupino, who's like this, he's a turbo like junkie, but like he's a mob boss who's running a lot of things, and you go to his club and he is just going on a psychotic like cult leader rant. The flesh of fallen angels. The whole thing is just like the creep vibes are up to 9,000, especially as you're making your way up this area and everything just gets more and more twisted and weird. And he's still going on ranting and raving. And then, I mean, you finally then have the boss fight, but it is just, it's right up there and just some more creepy moments thrown out throughout the game. So that definitely is on my honorable mention. I almost thought about throwing it onto the list, but I was like, I'll go with some different stuff. And then I'll say one more.
And we also got PD Jake is here saying, like the dang stream nerds. What's up, Jake? Good to see you tonight, buddy.
And then one more would be Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl.
Okay.
A very, very heavy post-apocalyptic, atmospheric, just horror game for sure. There, you can kind of look at certain things as kind of being kind of goofy, especially when you hear the cheeky breaky in the distance, as that's kind of like their calling sign to certain people. But then you start getting into like the different warehouses, the sub basements of places, and because it's supposed to be like it is in Chernobyl, where that whole disaster happened, and it's just all the freaks and weird stuff that has come about thanks to all of that. And it's based off of a book series too, but really good game.
I know a lot of people are really looking forward to the sequel that's, I think, coming out before the end of the year.
November.
Something like, I've heard about that. Yeah, I'm a little but hopefully it turns out good, because I thought the first one was fantastic.
Well, we'll see. It is being developed in a war zone, so we'll see what goes on.
Yeah.
All right. And then let's see here. I don't write down the honorable mentions. I think Jason does though. So
I usually write some of them down just to be they're usually tiebreakers and all that kind of stuff.
So do we have any other? Did everybody go on their honorable mentions?
I was gonna say Carl still hasn't gone.
I was gonna say I don't think Carl is gone, but I don't have my notes to refer to on honorable mentions. So
you're distracted by Buffy's boobs.
Who isn't?
Kind of not hypnoptized by them.
I got a butterface. Okay, I understand.
Well, that's what you gotta look at the boobs. It's like, can you put a paper bag over that, and then we can just look at the the window dressing there.
Can we all agree that winter is the enemy of the butterface?
It is, yes.
All right, so I got my honorable mentions. I'll kind of just do like series that I think that we haven't talked about that I would recommend. Obviously, Fatal Frame. I feel like a lot of people should look into that series if you haven't.
I know nothing about, but I've heard the name.
Taking a picture of these scary ass ghosts that are coming after you.
Oh, okay. I know it's okay. I've seen a couple bits from that game.
The one thing you don't want to do while you're trying to run away from enemies, like, hey, I gotta take a picture of this thing and get really close to it. Why is this thing trying to get me?
Yeah, and 2 of them are on the Xbox too. So they have like 5 of them out, and the first 3 are still trapped on the PS2. But the other 2 sequels I think are on everything. So you can check them out if you want to play them. One of them used to be a Wii U exclusive, but they ported that. Another game series that I would recommend to people is My Background, Siren. If you haven't played those games, I would honestly say check those games out as well. They kind of are like a Silent Hill clone, Resident Evil clone that was a Sony first-party game. Shout out Studio Japan, rest in peace. They were also a big driver behind it. And also, this one in particular, Blood Curse, was a remake of the first one that they ported to the PS3. So if you want to check that out, highly recommend these series. They're pretty good. Another series that is obscure that I haven't played, but I've heard good things about, is the Echo Night series from the PS1 and PS2. This was a FromSoft horror game that takes place in space, I believe.
I've never even heard of it. It's a FromSoft game?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I know you could get the first one on the PlayStation Store and play on the PS3 or Vita still. So if you want to check it out, I think it's $4.99, so you can have a cheap way to get it. Otherwise, you're looking to spend a couple $100 for just the PS1 copy. After that, another game that is locked to Japan. So this one has to you have to play it on original hardware or emulate it. Sega Saturn game. Sega made a Resident Evil clone of their own called Deep Fear.
Yes, I was saying I was trying to think of the name, but yeah.
Yeah, it takes place in an undersea lab, and you have to constantly refill your air cycle.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, so I highly recommend to check into that game. It looks pretty damn cool.
BioShock meets Resident Evil.
Basically, yeah. And last one is an indie game that came out, I think, last year. That's gotten some good support. That's actually had a crossover event with Dave the Diver, Dredge.
I saw that on a bunch of lists. I have it, but I haven't played it yet.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Basically, you drive a boat and you got to fight Cthulhu horrors. There you go. That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, for a while, I was getting that game mixed up with Dave the Diver because they both came out around the same time. And they have very similar type of games. But I think Dave the Diver is a much more cheery game, right? It's not so creepy.
I can be creepy. There's some
moments.
stuff. Yeah.
It has some moments here and there, but otherwise mainly very comfy.
Don't worry
very
about
relaxing.
it. We're going to have a Fracture and I are going to have a spoiler cast for it coming up soon, so you'll find out.
Okay. Well, is there a actual story to that game that will
Yes.
be spoiled?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, actually there is.
All right, so I'll have to hold off on listening to that one until after I play it. So,
And that should be it for my honorable mentions.
all right. Yeah, Snapple Rye is saying I played Fatal Frame. The first three are best, but the newer ones get stale. And he can also vouch for Echo Night as well. It's mainly a walking sim, but with a lot of running away and puzzles.
I will. I'm gonna give one more honorable mention just because
All right.
I think it just no one really talks about it, and if it wasn't for this franchise, I don't think we would have like Mr. X or Nemesis or some of like the big bads. But Clock Tower, I think.
I've heard of that one, but I never played it.
And Haunting Ground. You got to throw in Haunting Ground in that one too.
Yeah, just those. Like I said, the people that know about them, they know about them. But if it wasn't for those, like those are pretty iconic, just for the big games that kind of stealing some of their ideas to have the big monsters chasing you. And yeah, the Clock Tower. Not even yeah, thank you. Yeah, so if it wasn't for Scissor Man coming after you, we wouldn't have some of the things that we have now. And Scissor Man was absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, I got the remake coming for that one. Yeah, it's a guy with a giant pair of scissors.
So it's Scissor Man sounds like a classic Mega Man Robot Master.
Yeah, it does. Huh?
It's if Cutman decided he wanted to actually become evil.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. It's like Cutman, but like scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of good horror franchises, but I feel like we've pretty much hit on so many. There's probably some that I'm even looking at now that I'm looking at my games. We could be here for a while, but I feel like Fatal Frame for sure is one of those ones that I feel like should get some love out there.
One of the other things I was going to mention when someone mentioned Chernobyl was that was Phil that mentioned Chernobyl.
Yeah. Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl.
Yes, the soccer games. I someone gifted them to me on Steam way back in the day, but I never actually ended up playing them. But I did play basically its competition and much more recent games. I did play the first two of the three of the Metro games, which are very similar.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Metro 1 for sure. I would put on this list too because that's a trip game.
Although I ended up playing them out of order. I played Metro Last Light, which is the second one. I played that one first, and then I played Metro 2033, which is the first one. And it's because they left Game Pass in reverse order.
I want to throw one more on here too, since we're talking about a game. There was a Land of the Dead tie-in game.
Land of the Dead?
Yeah. And
My brother played that game.
I have it. I'm thinking about streaming it. I just haven't put it out there. But it's like a survival horror game where you have to get all the way to the main city in the storyline. If anyone's interested, check that game out.
Okay. And Dude is saying Fatal Frame 1 and 2 were on original Xbox.
Yes, they were.
And then Snapple is saying, anyone mentioned Kuon? It's a FromSoft game taking place in a haunted feudal Japanese castle.
I don't have $1,000, so no.
Oh, is it one of those like super collector items?
That one and Rule of Rose are like my two grails. So
okay.
I need to grift more on Twitch and beg for money.
Maybe you could trade your Panzer Dragoon for it.
No. These are games I can't sell because I'll never get them back.
So yeah, I've never even heard of that one. Kuon.
Kuon is like one of those rare ones. It's like that, Rule of Rose, and a lot of people put the Haunting Ground up there with it, and There Will Be Blood. Or Blood Will Tell. Sorry, Blood Will Tell.
There Will Be Blood, I think, is a movie.
Like those are like some of the more expensive, sought after, really good original PS2 games.
Okay. All right. Well, that will get us into our number ones to finish off the stream. So that is about 3:10:40. So, all right. Anyone dying to go first on their number one?
I want to hear Fracture go first. Let's hear him.
I can go first because my game was kind of mentioned already. I'm going to kind of twist it in a way because I wanted to. Obviously, my favorite game of all time is Resident Evil 2 and Final Fantasy 7. So Resident Evil 2 is going to be my number one. But because Resident Evil 2 is mentioned, I'm also going to throw in RE Remake on the GameCube for that. So I'm going to talk about that one.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm going to throw that one on here and talk about that one a little bit more is because of two monsters, and that is the Crimson Heads. Because F you Crimson Heads, thinking you could remake enemies that were already dead and scare the crap out of me, and only way you can get rid of them is to burn them, and that's it. And then also bringing in a character of Lisa Travers, which is a really tragic story and a game that had a lot of interesting characters already in there, but you add something a little bit more drama into a franchise that is just more puzzles and all these kind of monsters. So those two. So RE2 is technically my number one, but I'm gonna give the scariness version of it to RE Remake, just because I think what they did for that game actually made it a little bit more scary than it was.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned something earlier, and I was going to pull up because you were talking about Final Fantasy and Resident Evil, and I went and pulled up our what episode was that? Episode 10 was our top 5 video game franchise. Yeah, Resident Evil was your number 1, and Final Fantasy was your number 3. So, all right. So yeah. So what was the one you just mentioned now was Resident Evil Remake on GameCube?
Yeah, so the GameCube version had one. They took the original one that was on the Saturn and the PlayStation, and they just gave it an updated graphics, everything for the GameCube. And then they also added an extra story part to it, gave a couple extra enemies in a way, which means they added these things called Crimson Heads, where
I remember those.
they're zombies, but they're zombies that just don't technically die unless they're set on fire or they lose their head. So if you shoot a zombie dead and it's just lying there, if you don't have gas and a lighter to set it on fire, you might randomly walk back into this room because that's what you do in the game. And this thing might just come up, and next you know it is like 5 to 10 times stronger, and it is chasing you down and trying to pounce and kill you in a way. So there's times where you forget to do that. Next you know, you go back in a room that you thought you had cleared out. A hunter shows up. Now you have a Crimson Head and a hunter after you, and then you're like, okay, I never want to go in this room again. Sometimes you have to.
Okay. Yeah, there's been a lot of remakes of remakes, so I don't know the Resident Evil franchise that well. So
the remake version of Resident Evil is pretty much the I might get. I think I'm not wrong for saying this. I think RE Remake is technically, the first one now. Like if you play the one on the PlayStation, fine, but like the stuff they added to the remake, I think a lot of people consider that like that's part of the story kind of thing.
That's
Just 'cause-
that's still the shining example of the Resident Evil remakes that a lot of people have pointed to, but like, why don't you just do that?
Right.
For the early Resident Evils, at least for like 1, 2, for 2 and 3 as well. It's like, well, why didn't you do that? Because there are people that think that the tank controls and stuff are kind of what adds to the idea of the horror element of being able to like, because of how like
So I
a danger aspect to it of trying to like get away from these enemies without these advanced controls.
This is how I look at it. Because I had to fight people with the old Resident Evils. I hate them. I agree. I think the tank controls add a little bit of scariness to it, like trying to move around.
Yeah.
But I also think that the gameplay of me trying to move around shouldn't be the reason why I'm scared. Like I should be.
Agreed.
If I have a third-person camera behind me and I can still run and still be terrified trying to get away from something, then that should be the case. Also, it goes back to when I was talking about the Silent Hill 2 remake and everything like that.
Yeah.
I think more people will play a game in a third-person camera than they would with tank controls kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if more people are going to play a game in a franchise that's out there because of that, by all means, please do it that way. Because again, I want more people to fall in love with this franchise like I did. I'm not. Who cares? I mean, yes, if I'm a purist, I'm a purist. I have what I have. But if you can make the same thing and just change a camera and a controls around and not lose anything, who cares?
Right.
Yeah, Carl, tell us how you really feel about tank controls.
I think tank controls are fine for the time, but guys, just it was for the time. It's okay to move on and just admit that something in the past was not as great as you remember it.
It's not.
I can still
bad,
replay it. It's just fun, man. What are you talking about?
I could play Onimusha and it's the same thing. It's just fine to just go on, There's a reason why technology advances. All right, I'm a
not
Luddite.
always for the best. Not always for the best.
Most of the time, it is. And tank controls are fine. We can move on from tank controls. Artificial difficulty doesn't mean something's better.
All right. Carl, you want to give us your number one? Or we're going to go with Filter because he said he was about to go first.
Let's go Fractured.
All
Okay.
right.
So I alluded to this game earlier on being the kind of originator for the other franchise for BioShock. And I'm considering this a little outside the separate from the first game's remake because to me it just feels like two different games from the original onto this. But for me, System Shock 2. This game to me was kind of one of some of the early PC games that a buddy of mine got me into. And this was a game that I just remember being pissed scared, hiding in a corner because you hear the enemies just wandering the halls, just them going, run, hurry, all these little things. And then you have even though you think it's kind of a joke, but they have these small psychotic psionic throwing monkeys that are just that'll also just kind of jump out at you and start hurling the psionic energy at you, trying to kill you on top of everything. Oh my god. But like the thing is too is like you have this killer soundtrack that is very electronic synthwave music kind of blaring at you a little bit, but it just is adding to it. The thing is too is if you just turn that down a bit to where the music is just a little more towards the background, it just elevates things even more for how creepy, how psychotic everything is that's going on I believe it is Citadel Station for this. I forget exactly. I wish my brother was still awake because I'd ask him.
What game is this? I missed it.
System Shock 2.
Oh, System Shock. Okay, for some reason I didn't hear that.
And Ken Levine has basically been copying and pasting what he took part in from this game onto the BioShock series and so on, because there's a lot of the same gameplay mechanics and stuff like that going on. Just replace the psionics with plasmids and stuff like that. The big twist reveal. This was where they first kind of did audio logs. They're kind of like more like phantom logs and stuff like that, because you'd run into the, thanks to like all the manipulation that had gone on. And even though it's an old game, and I'm sure there's enough people that know the twist to it, I don't want to give it away.
I
Because
don't.
it is such a big moment in the game, and especially like I was going into this game not knowing about, the original. I hadn't known about it. I hadn't known about the story, so it was just suddenly like, holy crap, what is going on here? It is a great like moment in the game, and I even rewatched the scene recently, and I just got the goosebumps of just as the whole thing is playing out. I just thought it was wonderful again. And it, like I said, just the atmosphere that you're on. Again, it's all claustrophobia, all these tight corridors. It's about the sound design, which was I thought really good for it, because again, you hear the voices, you hear the enemies stalking the hallways and everything. You know they're nearby. You still know how nearby they are. And so, like it was, and especially like you're starting out early in the game, you don't have a whole lot. Depending on what kind of if you pick soldier or the psionic class, stuff like that, you might have something to go for, but it's got those kind of baked in RPG mechanics. So you're trying to figure out how to survive in this environment. And yeah, so it's definitely just one of my top games of all. It's like if you want to play like the true, like, you could play BioShock, but go and play System Shock 2, because it's going to be a way better experience. Especially then too, like Night Dive is going to be putting out an enhanced edition of System Shock 2. So they'll probably clean up some of the controls and stuff like that. I think they're still fine. And there are also some great modders out there that are like, they're doing their own like HD remakes. But I'd still say even just play the original. The original's perfect the way it is.
Yeah.
Worth the playthrough. You might want some background, but at the same time, going in blind could just be another fun experience of like, oh my god, what am I walking into here? Because you start getting little hints of everything, and for the moment, you kind of get an explanation of what happened from the previous game to know how things carry over. So I just thought it was just magnificent for me. It's a hell of an experience, but it just, and also unfortunately, because the game was kind of rushed towards the end, the ending is a little baked in, but at the same time, it's classic at this point. And it's given the situation, it's also kind of hilarious, but like you're just like, oh my god, I can't believe that just happened. So again, I won't spoil that either. I'll just say, give it a go. It'll be worth the time for sure.
Yeah, I was I thought that Night Dive just put out the remaster of the second one. I looked it up because like that just came out earlier this year, but it was the first one. They're working.
Yeah,
on
that was
the
remake was the first one. They also, like I said, they did an enhanced edition of the first game before they did the remake of the first game. I think kind of testing the waters and maybe see the popularity of it and stuff. And now they're going to be putting out the enhanced edition of the second game. People, I think, are wondering if they're going to do a remake of System Shock 2. Who knows? Hopefully they have a little more of their shit together this time around. Also, they were allegedly planning System Shock 3, but that's been really quiet since the announcement. So
okay, so there's the enhanced edition and there's the remake
of System Shock 1, yes.
Oh, okay. So those are two different things.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So going back on the previous topic, dude says that the game has to be designed with tank controls in mind. Yeah. And he also says, would you kindly play System Shock 2? Wait, wrong game. All right. Well, I think I'm gonna go next so that Carl can finish us off with an actual spooky game. Because as I've said many times, spooky isn't my thing. So my number one is an action horror, and it's full of demons, but it's not really a scary game. And I talk about it often because it's one of my favorite games of the last year. What came out in 2020, so probably one of my favorite games of the last 5 years. That probably my favorite shooter that's in that time frame, and that is Doom Eternal. I love this game, and I've played it. Probably the only other thing that recent game that I played that many hours since in the last 5-ish years or so is probably Subnautica. I know a lot of people are not, I often say, purists are not a big fan of it. A lot of times I'm referencing James because he's like, yeah, it's a good game. It's not a Doom game. I totally get that. But I freaking love this game. It's got demons in it straight from hell, so I think it qualifies. So it may be a bit of a cop-out answer, but I love this game.
And the first game did start, it referenced Doom 64, which was the last game to have Doom Guy and how he gets locked into hell, eternally killing demons. And then this game the first game kind of explains how they trapped him and then bring him back into this current events of what's going on. So it's still the same continuity too.
So Doom 16 is basically the sequel of Doom 64?
Yes.
Oh, I haven't played Doom 64 yet.
Doom 64
is backlog.
Doom 64 was the first game I got on my N64. It's great. I forgot to mention it for an honorable mention. Damn it. Because it's good. Like, again, you want like them doing definitely a more strong horror-esque theme. I would say Doom 64 was it before Doom 3. It was really well done. I loved it. This again, great ambient soundtrack for it. Oh, wonderful.
But yeah, definitely of the Doom games, Doom 3 is definitely the scariest. That one's almost like a survival horror. So don't know what Carl's last number one is going to be, but if it's not Doom 3, sorry, dude, because I know he's like saying something. If Doom 3 is not on the list, I riot. So
get the pitchforks ready.
Well, it's not Doom 3. I'll just save everyone to
so
he's going to again.
Dude, you're gonna have to riot that Doom 3 wasn't on the list. But yeah, that one's definitely the spookiest of them all. But I'm not a big fan of spooky, but am a big fan of Doom, and Doom Eternal is an awesome game, and I freaking love that game. So I wanted to go second to last so that Carl can finish this off with what I assume is going to be a proper spooky game.
Yeah, I would say this one is more of a psychological, more than an actual like over the top like jump scare, scary horror. But this game just had a sequel this year. Really loved it. The original, we loved the sequel, but the original I think is much more thriller, psychological thriller. Thank you. I'm kind of tired, so I'm stumbling. But I want to go and give a shout out to Hellblade 1 as my number one spooky game, because specifically in the first one, like the second one is kind of more leans away from some of the more like psychological aspects and kind of goes with more of a action, more like oriented route. But this one is just like pure from like the word go. Like you got to have your headphones on, you got to hear all the voices. Obviously Senua, she suffers from a psychosis where she hears voices and see things, and that plays into the whole part of the story where they think she's a witch, because she's not right in the head. And she goes on this trip to try to revive her dead husband, and the entire time is just a deep dive into what is she experiencing like actual Norse mythology, or is she just experiencing voices in her head? The art direction in this game is very gothic, very dark, very brutal. There's a lot of crazy scenes where like Senua is having just like these breakdowns of like things running up her body. She's carrying around her dead husband's head, and it's like breathing, and she's looking at it breathe and everything else like that. And just a very short period of it's a short game, obviously, so you could get through it in a day, and it's just like one of those classic really good movie type games with like linear puzzles, okay combat, but like the story and atmosphere is just 10 out of 10 right there alone.
Yeah, when you mentioned Dead Space earlier, you got to play with headphones. I the first thing I thought of was Hellblade, because someone told me like when you play Hellblade, make sure you have your headphones on. I'm glad that I did that, because that definitely pumps up the atmosphere in that game. Yeah, there's a part later, like it's really close to the end of the game, where if you're in the dark without like a torch or something for too long, like I don't know if it actually will kill you, but I think it does. But there, like the music starts ramping up if you're in the dark too long without getting to a torch or something, and it's really creepy. And at the beginning of the game, it totally messes with the player's head, because it tells you basically there's permadeath if you die too many times.
Yes.
There actually isn't, but it tells you there is to mess with you.
Well, there's also the voices in your head will like also laugh at you and kind of try to confuse you. So they'll be like, duck. And like if you duck, they'll laugh and be like, there's nothing there. And it's like it's just that constant, like these voices like going like, we're going to die, aren't we? We're dead. We're so dead. Why are we even here? They're dead. And it's just like I said, it's someone from the artistic viewpoint of what they're trying to, tell this story through. I'm stumbling through words. But like it's just like you got to play the game. You got to see the art. You got to fight the bosses and everything else like that. It is creepy. It's not like an action RPG. It's not like it's not even tank controls. It's very measured in its response, and it's simplistic combat, but it's also not like the easiest combat too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the first one. I haven't played the second one yet, but I am planning on playing through the first one again before I play the second one.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much of this one. It's cheap. It usually goes on sale for like $5 now. It's on everything, including the Switch. Like if you haven't played this, if you haven't played it, I highly recommend that you play it.
Yeah. So, I'm assuming that neither of you guys have played it, given.
No, I have. I've heard about the games and everything. I just have not played them.
Well, I've played part of it, but my friend, that's like one of his favorite games, and I've seen him play a lot of it.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it as well. Yeah, they're both short. I just haven't played the second one yet, but definitely recommend it. Good game. So, all right. Well, that will wrap us up for our top 5 spooky games. So we will be right back here again in 2 weeks with our top 5 spooky movies. I don't know if I'll be here at start time, but I should be here shortly thereafter. So Jason might have to kick us off without me, kind of like last month we did Star Wars Games Part 2, and I had to hop in later on in the stream. So we shall see, because I'll be on site working that week, and it's like an hour away from home. But before we head on out here, what do you guys have to plug? Let us know what you got going on, where we can find you. What are you guys doing? So, Carl, I'll go ahead and go with you and go clockwise.
So, hi everyone. I am Carl of the RNG Podcast, and this week I will be doing a game stream tomorrow night as I play part 2 of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer game for the original Xbox. So, gonna hopefully be able to play some of that and not look like a total fool like I did at the end of the last stream, where I just randomly got past a level by falling into a hole. So that was fun. And then
Happy little accident.
Exactly. And
Okay,
then Friday I was planning to play the Van Helsing video game and found out I don't own it. I thought I owned it, and I don't own it. I was looking through my Xbox collection.
Yeah,
and,
you've been mentioning that game a bunch lately.
And I was like, I'm going to play this. And I don't have it. I literally looked through everything 3 times. And I was like, how did I do this?
Are you going to go and find it before that time? Or
No, I'm still trying to pivot to some other game. I got so many options, but I'm trying to figure out a monster-themed game. So I got it narrowed down to 2. Let's just say that much.
I want to see that game since you've been talking it up.
I'm trying. The next time I get paid, I'll order it. I'll hopefully have it by the end of October. But October's a busy month. Obviously, I don't really have too many guests lined up. I have only 4 so far for the rest of this month. It sounds like. So, but besides that, I also have an early edition of the podcast that will be at 11 o'clock 11 a.m. on Saturday, and my guest will be Wilmy Hood. He's going to be back on, and we're going to be talking about the Evil Dead series franchise. So
Nice.
we're going to be doing a retrospective on the movies, the video games, the TV show.
Ugh, that TV show.
TV show was fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Second season lost me.
Yeah, I don't know that the one fight when he's fighting the monster's
The
butthole.
cadaver. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was. Yeah. I
love
like,
that.
That wasn't.
This
for
is
me.
this is my when it comes to Evil Dead. If you can have a movie called Army of Darkness and be that tone, and you have any complaints about anything crazy from the TV show, you just lost, because Army of Darkness is ridiculous as all can be, and people can find me on it. And I understand like how the TV show can do stuff, but again, if you
They're all over the top, man. Even Evil
Exactly.
Dead 2 is over the top. He goes
I
into
kept-
a room and a deer starts laughing at him. He starts dancing with a lamp. All right. Evil Dead was like stop being serious after the first movie.
But that was even just
That's
part
the
of
only
him
one I've
mentally breaking down and just kind of
I know.
losing his shit. And I thought that was a much more. It's kind of like
He cuts off his hand and flips him off. All right, come
his
on.
hand, well, not even that. His hand becomes like another like a clone of him.
an Army
Exactly.
of Darkness. Yeah.
But even still, he has a chainsaw hand. All right.
Which is awesome.
This is a great. It's not supposed to be like a serious
that's
drama,
what
you know.
If you wanted to be serious, watch the first one.
Yeah, the first one, and then watch the Australian remake, and you'll be fine.
It's like because the first Evil Dead movie is the only one I've seen. I thought it was going to be like a horror scary movie, and then I was like, oh, this is more like action comedy horror.
Well, the first one is more serious
First
than
one
Yeah.
was
when they
super serious.
like
Yeah.
they were still film students, basically. You know.
And then
Second
the
one-
second one is where they started to have like a little bit of fun with it, but it's like a good mix of horror and comedy. I felt
The second one was a sequel reboot or a seaboot.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's literally a remake of the first one, but they're like, hey, we can get away with doing some funny stuff.
I wonder if that's the one I saw. I don't remember. Someone put it on and I watched
A
it.
lot of people watch the second one before they watch the first one because like the
Yeah.
second one has a little bit more fun.
It's the more popular one.
It
Mine was a different journey. I went from 3 to 2 to 1.
Nice.
How did you do that?
It was Army of Darkness was like randomly on one of those like either like HBO or Stars or something like that back in the day. I was either or maybe it might have been on Comedy Central. I don't fucking know.
It probably it could have
But
been
it
on
was
Sci-Fi or Comedy Central.
Either
Easily
or,
could have
and
been.
then it was just like I watched it. I was like, oh my god, this is pretty funny.
I know.
And I'm like, well, what? But I'm like, I started, looking into it. I was like, oh, there's Evil Dead 2, and then there's Evil Dead. I'm like, oh, so I kind of went back through each one, and I also, I enjoy the hell out of the second one.
yeah, I don't know. Like the TV show was nice. It had callbacks to his sister was in there too.
I just thought the first season was a little more consistent with itself up until about the end of it, and then the second season just felt kind of disjointed at times. Like because I think it got suffered by a bit of a writer's strike that had happened around the same time, or some drama behind the scenes. I know I remember looking into it, but like I liked the first season. I thought they had some interesting build, especially like they're teasing the idea of like, or at least it seemed like they were, of like Ash kind of putting a mental block on everything that had happened to him, and that was kind of explaining why he turned into such a goofball character. I'm like, oh, this is good. Here we go. And then they killed the guy's uncle, voodoo witch doctor guy. And I'm like, oh, crud. Well, there we go. That just figures. I mean, it was very much in line with Evil Dead.
Right.
So I couldn't necessarily complain on that front, but I was just like, that's a bit disappointing.
I think it ended one season too early, but it's over.
So I thought I watched the first one. Maybe this is in multiple ones. I don't know. I just know I saw one of them. Was the S Mart? Was that in one
That
of them?
was
or
Army
that-
of Darkness.
That's Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
And which one is that?
That's the third
Third
one.
one.
Oh, okay. Then I guess the third one's the one that I saw.
Yeah, they
That
kept each one they kept losing their rights to the movies, so that's why the second one too was a complete like kind of half baked reboot remake or whatever.
A
But even
sequel
like
reboot, a sequel.
yeah, the sequel reboot
A pre-sequel.
as Bruce Campbell has said, if you get to the point of the end of the first movie where he's kind of flying through the air and you combine it with the second movie where he's flying through the air, you can essentially have the two movies cut together. It'll be like your sequel.
Okay, well, that would explain why I thought it was the first one and why it wasn't very serious. And you're like, no, the first one was serious.
Yeah, the first one was
the first one was the third one.
Yeah, the first one was more of a horror movie tone and everything, more serious and all that.
And that's also the one. The Army of Darkness was the one with the Necronomicon, right? Or is that?
Oh, the Necronomicon is the kind of central thing to all that causes the Deadites and the summoning of the demons and everything. So the Necronomicon is this consistent thing throughout each of it,
Okay.
and that's like I said, it's the Book of the Dead. It's what summons. It's what can help summon the demons, and that's like if that's where you saw, Ash fight a clone of himself. Yeah, that was the third movie.
Okay.
If you remember them going back into like the medieval time kind of
Yeah.
thing, that's the third one. If you remember them in like I'm man, I can't think, like a woods house and going underneath the underground with the bloated lady, that's the second one.
So, all right. One quick shout out before we move on to Filter is that my good buddy Dude 1286 over on Rumble is at 99 followers. Let's see if we can get him one more follower to get him to 100. I just dropped his link in chat, so go give Dude a follow on Rumble. He's my fellow achievement hunter. We do achievement chasers once a month, and he's also coaching me through what we're calling Dude Souls. He's coached me through Dark Souls. But I'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, let's see if we can get him one more follow and get him to 100 followers on Rumble. That'd be awesome.
I'm sorry, dude. I'm already following you. I can't add to it.
Same here. So, all right, Filter, what do you got going on that you want to plug?
I mean, other than, you can find me on YouTube, Kick, Twitch, Rumble, Odyssey as the Fractured Filter, also over on X as Fractured Filter. I don't know what I'm doing just yet, especially for tomorrow. I've come down with something. I don't know what.
Oh yeah, you sound a little bit
a little congested. I've been having a cough and all that crap. So I'm debating what I want to do. I'll either fire up some more Sparking Zero or get back to some more Vampires the Masquerade to stay with the theme of the month. I haven't decided if I'll do anything other than lay in bed. But keep an eye out. I'm sure to do something. So, and then of course, Thursday night I'll be on Static 2020's channel. He'll be primarily on Rumble this week.
Oh,
so
that's right.
Follow him over on Rumble because we are going to be diving into Pizzagate. So that if you're ready for a dark, twisted rabbit hole to go down, that'll be the time to do it. And we're gonna be over on Rumble for it because YouTube won't like that.
Yeah,
so
he was mentioning that on Bloodbath last night, saying that
this
one's not going to be on YouTube because it's not safe for YouTube.
It is not at all. And of course, Saturday night Sith, same bat time, same bat channel, 4 p.m. Mountain Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. What we're gonna be probably doing on that is doing a bit of a catch up and dive into all the Sweet Baby Inc. drama, what's gone on recently, just kind of do our own little catch up because it's been a hot minute. And hopefully we'll get this to Stargate this week, which will be the Spirits episode. We've been kind of putting this one off a bit, mainly because it is kind of a dud episode, but it is what it is.
Which episode was that?
Spirits is the one where they basically run into the Native American
That's what I thought.
Planet with the I don't know if this is Naquadria or Naquita.
No, it was Naquita. Naquadria doesn't show up until season 5.
I get these metal names mixed up, so I forget which.
I just started season 6.
Okay,
So I know
okay.
that Naquadria doesn't show up until
then.
Jonas
Okay.
shows up at the end. Of season 5.
Right. Because then that's how it kicks off with Daniel. Okay, yeah. So yeah, they discover a new metal. They got to deal with aliens. You know, it's a very fillery episode, but it's entertaining. Otherwise, that's all for now.
All right. Well, glad to have you on.
Yeah, and thank you for having
Top
me, guys.
5
This was
as
fun.
always. Love
Yeah,
having
this
you
was
on.
fun.
And I know Carl stepped away for a moment, but thank you for coming on as well, Carl. Love having you on Top 5. Jason, you got anything going on you want to plug?
You'll find me here in 2 weeks talking about some scary movies. That's about it.
All right. As for myself, so I have been doing, as I just mentioned, Dark Souls with Dude. I'm calling it Dude Souls on Wednesday nights, and he's helping coach me through Dark Souls. We're not doing that tomorrow, though. Taking the night off because I'm going to go have dinner with my mom. And that was really the only day this month that worked. So no Dude Souls tomorrow, but we will continue with Dude Souls next week. But on Thursday, instead of an open mic, Carl and I are going to be playing Crackdown 2. And it is 4 players, so there's just 2 of us. So if anyone wants to join us for Crackdown 2, we got 2 open slots. So we're going to go have some fun blowing stuff up. So, and then I will be back with Metroidvania Monday on Monday, and we'll be continuing AM2R. So I started that off last night, and I got stuck. I was looking into it this afternoon to figure out where I need to go, and I figured out where I need to go. It's like there's this one tiny little fake block, or I mean, it's not a fake block, but you have to bomb it in order to open a passageway. And it's critical to your progression, and there's nothing indicating that that you need to go this way. So I'll be able to continue when I
Careful, you're gonna go down the David
Is
Jaffe
it above
route.
one of the oh man, I can never remember the species faces, the eagle face or whatever species.
The
Oh,
Chozo?
the Chozo. The
Chozo, thank you. Is it that block that's above that, like that head?
No, it's a block. It's in. So where I am is I'm
Uh-huh.
in the hydro station area,
Okay.
and there is one room where you fight a Metroid. In
Right.
the bottom right is a block you can bomb, and
Okay.
it takes you through a couple of pipes that get you to two upgrades. And there's like you can see on the map that there's something there, but there's nothing
Yeah.
indicating how to get there, nor is there anything indicating that this is the critical path because there's 2 upgrades you need in there in order to progress. So I finished like the last half hour of that stream. I'm just running around aimlessly, not knowing where to go. So
those
I
were the
figured out
days.
where I need to go to get some more upgrades, so I'll be able to continue playing it next Monday.
Metroid 2 is my favorite Metroid. So anytime anybody plays any version of it, I'm like, okay, which are you at? Like, because there's another one where there's a spot you can just do that, and there's extra stuff there too. So I'm trying to remember.
Pretty much anytime there's a Chozo statue, I bomb all the walls around because there's something hiding behind them. So I didn't get stuck at anything like that.
All right.
But yeah, I did talk about that on the stream last night. I was like, my buddy Jason, Metroid 2 is his #1 Metroidvania from our first episode of Top 5.
Yep.
So I started AM2R for the first. Well, I've started it twice and played it for like 10 minutes each just to see how it is. This is my first time starting and actually going to be playing through the whole thing. So
It's so fun where you actually just like you're hunting the Metroids. Like
Yeah.
you have them on the bottom. Like, all right, I got to get you all.
And so I was going to ask you, have you played all 3 versions of Metroid 2?
Yes.
Okay, I figured as much since it's your favorite Metroidvania.
Yeah.
So, and I was talking to Dude last week because he wrote the achievements for Metroid 2 on Retro Achievements for the original Metroid 2 on Game Boy.
Oh,
So
nice.
he was trying to convince me to play Metroid 2 first. I'm like, I'm going to start with AM2R and then I'll play Metroid 2 later. But I wasn't planning on playing Metroid 2, but I was like, I got to play it at some point. And he convinced me, especially since he wrote the achievement set back in the day. And I think he said it was his very first achievement set he ever wrote. So I was like, okay, I will do it at some point, definitely, but I'm going to start with AM2R.
Oh man, and the simplicity of the Game Boy music for that Metroid game is so good. Like,
I
I'm humming all the songs like in my head right now.
I remember
Like I said-
wasting so many batteries trying to play that game.
Heck
Oh
yeah.
my god, I played that before Super Metroid. It was so much fun, man.
Yeah, so like I said, I haven't played the original Metroid 2 before. This is my first time playing any version of Metroid 2. But man, there's so many areas in AM2R. I was like, man, this music is fantastic for a fan built game. So, and then once I'm done with AM2R, I'll move on to Super Metroid, which I haven't played in a very long time. So I'm looking forward to playing through that again. And same with
true
once I get through that Metroid Fusion, which I also haven't played in a very long time. So looking forward to playing through all those again. But it's gonna take a while as I'm only playing this on Mondays. And then next week we'll be back with this time next week will be next episode Party Chat. And I think Jason's the guest host on that one. Is that right? Or you? Yeah.
I think I am. Yeah.
I have you down as the guest host
never
for
mind.
Party Chat next week.
Yeah, you will see me next week. That's what I'm doing. I'm here next week, and then you'll see me in 2 weeks on back here as well.
Now that Party Chat's moved to Tuesday, all the people who couldn't come on Saturday, I'm having on my Angry Canadian, Fraction Filter, Jason.
Yep.
So Jason's going to be on Party Chat on the 15th. And then Dude is going to be on Party Chat on the 29th, the last one of the month.
Nice.
So, so that will do it for tonight. Thank you guys for joining me as always.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
Love hanging out with you guys. And everyone who came in and chat for any period of time, thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate you guys and girls, as I saw Kay was in there earlier. And a shout out to Stapple Rai for another tip. So I appreciate that. That'll go on the wheel for my next roulette stream, which will be on the 24th to catch up with all the tips that I've gotten since my last roulette stream in July. So appreciate any and all support, no matter how much it is. And I almost forgot. Thank you for reminding me, Jason. Before we bid adieu, why don't you tell us where the rankings are? I almost forgot.
No, you're fine.
I knew we were missing something.
Yep. Nah, I was like, we're doing this for okay, cool. I'll wait. So our top 5 for as a collective group, I had to cheat a little bit because
not a lot of overlap.
But so number 5, because again, it was my 5th one until we just started the show. So we're gonna put number 5 is Alien Isolation, because it was my top honorable mention. It was on somebody's list, and it was gonna be
it was number 4.
Yeah. So we're putting Alien Isolation as number 5. And then after that, System Shock be number 4, but tied for technically number 2. Doom Eternal, Hellblade, all tied in the same area. And then our number 1 is Resident Evil 2.
That makes sense. So, all right. Well, thank you for always keeping such great notes on that, Jason. And let's see. Is it going to let me do it this time? Every time it says it's supposed to be there and it's not. So last thing before we go, let me just make sure that it's still, because I'm going to send you guys over if they are. And so I've been trying to remember to raid someone when I finish my streams, but whenever I go into YouTube, it said I Googled it. I'm like, how do you raid someone on YouTube? The button to raid someone is not there, so I literally cannot raid anyone.
So
sucks. I don't know what the deal is. So if you're still here, go hang out with the Melee crew while they are streaming the casting of Frank Stone, which I've never even heard of before.
Yeah,
go hang out with Melee James, my good buddy over at the Melee Games, and go say hello and say that Nerdy Neo sent you. So with that, we will say goodnight, everyone. We will see you all later, everyone.
Peace out. Later.
In the meantime, game on.
Oi.